Mic check. Welcome to the channel, guys. This is Reliable Rudy. Getting a couple things set up. Uh, Before we go into the title, you guys know I'm not a licensed financial advisor. Everything in this video contains only my opinion, is for entertainment purposes only. That's my goal, is to, make some trades, show you guys my way of trading, whether I'm making a trade, whether I'm trying to make a long-term, short-term, medium-term investment. I'm trying to just show you guys what I'm looking for. At the end of the day, just my opinion and for entertainment purposes only. So going over the title, we got NKLA. NKLA, the trade hasn't been an ad for some time. It's just my goal is to find the entry, get the entry, trim some levels to the upside, and then hold a piece to the dream. So yes, I was able to hold this from 290 all the ways back into 2, from 275 all the ways back into 2, from 275, and continuing to still hold this, and we have one print on the name today. On the gap up, our print came in at 309, so really not the greatest. We seen that it gapped up. We seen it was the top mover at the beginning of the day, but my eyes were on yellow. I told myself that if this opens above this high right here, we were gonna try it. So we tried it, and it just got done halting. We had a print at 29s before the halt, and our no, we halt up at 24s right there. We had a 29. And where's our other print at? We have a 29 to 16 print. And not too much size left on yellow here, but we think that we can hold this for a larger move to the upside. I think they cut operations, but just yesterday, I mean, it was just a crazy type of day, and the way that it ended was insane. I thought that this was just going to get rejected to the downside yesterday. Didn't think that there was anything there. One of my good buddies, Donnie, uh, he actually took this trade from a 160. I said, "Hey, dude, if this rips and takes out that day's high, I mean, this should be a continuation play," is what we were talking about. Now, I was keeping my eye on it in the after hours, and saying that. And here we're gonna start getting a breakout right here. So let's go ahead and take a piece off on this 250. Maybe it gets a halt to the upside right here. Rejects those 250s. Let's see if we can get back up to those 250s. We got some good size on the bids coming in right here. And we're going to take just 10% cuts all the ways to the upside here today. I'm not really looking to hold this for an extended move going into tomorrow. That's not really the goal for me with this position. But we do not have a print in these 40s. So let's see if we can get one more attempt push back up for those 50s and go from there. And the good size on the bid here on 37. So if it gets under 37s, I think I'm just gonna take this same piece off, and there it is through 37s. Let's just take this piece off right here because I can't promise that I wasn't able to see how much size was on that 50, but I did tap these 50s right here. And I'm not saying that it can't go higher, but regardless, I wanted to take that 10% right there. And here we go. If we blast through these 50s, I'm gonna respect it again. So let's go ahead and get ready to. Let's just go right on the. We're gonna go on the ask at these 50s and see if we can get a fill right there for another 10%. Oh man, there we go. I found it. So yes, this is yellow. We're in on a good one here. We think if this wants to run all day, halt up a couple times, I'm all for it. If it wants to come back into these 175s, that is pretty much where we got it at the beginning of the day. So ripping pretty good on the name so far, 35% in the matter of the first 30 seconds of the day. So nothing to really complain about there. NKLA, kind of the same story. If this wants to get back up to day's high, let's just put an alert off this day's high so we don't miss out on it. And that is the NKLA. So going over to more of the, we got the NVAX. I seen that NVAX was down a little bit off the open. Let's see what it's doing now. So here's your 15 minute, comes right back in. You know, from an 840 entry, we've already had our trims that we needed up in here. We never had one over 30, but I think the best trim that we had was a 928 yesterday. So I mean, you guys see the same look. This is the look we're going for. These flat tops, boom, takes it, and then the continuation play after it. Even if this pulls all the ways back in, the position that we have left, we're looking to hold this for a bigger move. So maybe if it gets underneath of 875s, I can look back and see, okay, what's really going on here. So let's put an alert on NVAX for a move to the downside, but no fills on NVAX, just a continuation play. If this wants to build some sort of U shape right here and get back to these highs right here, we're looking for a continuation. We can go to a daily chart for this. You can see this green candle. I'm already looking for an indecision candle, but all I'm looking for really is for the same buyers to come into this green candle as they did yesterday. If it pulls back in and takes out this high, maybe it has to set a flat top right here before it takes out that high. So, I mean, the example that I keep going back to, because it's a decent example, is this AI. You make a huge run, you sell off, and then you make a shorter run, but then you start building this flat top in the middle of that move. You see how we're in the middle of this move right here? This is the flat top I'm looking forward to eventually break out, where I can then get some continuation to the upside, where we have a catalyst for a channel to the upside. So going back to NVAX, if that is what wants to make happen, you go on a run, you sell off, you go on another run, and then you build this flat top, and then you take out that high, and then you're looking for this to be the catalyst for a channel to the upside. So if it does set up this flat top here around this 930s, I'm okay with it. And maybe it takes a few days, but from that 930 to that breakout, top end of the channel, we're looking for about $12. Hold a piece for the dream. If it somehow broke out of that channel, which, you know, that 12 area is probably meeting in over at this resistance over here. You know, if it gets over top of that, I got a nice gap fill here at 17. So for my entry at 840, we're looking at almost a double up for that extension up to the 17th. So that's kind of a little bit of a look on getting the entry, and I feel we got a very good entry for to be a part of the ride. So we're going to see what that has in store. Let's go back to yellow, because that is the one. Yellow, we got the 250 fill. Let's see if yellow can keep going. We're up to 260. Are we going to get a halt up right here? Now let's look at some extensions that we can get on this yellow. This looks like a nice flat bottom break actually. It tries to hold this 236, what a strange number. We'll call it 230, and it tries to hold it again, breaks it to the downside. We get a couple rejection wicks to the upside that reject that, and now we're actually through that. End up at 260. Let's see if this can catch a bid to the top end, which is 270. 275, maybe 275 we go on the bid. That's a whole dollar in the money. So I don't see why we couldn't do that. And then we got a gap fill here at 333. So, and it does look like we do have a flat top right here, which is the start of the gap. So 275, 3, and 333. I think we're going to respect each level to the upside. So let's go in front of these 270s, which we're about there. So let's go ahead and get on the ask here at 270s. And we're just going to take another 10%. And there we go, we got the 270 fill. So next area we're going to go is probably that 296. And we do have the 270 fill, so ring in the register on 270. Over a dollar in the money in the first 23 minutes of the market being open. And we still have one title name to go over. But let's switch back over to that 15-minute chart so we can see. Really strong name, and maybe it would be wise to put some sort of stop loss in, but like I said, we don't really have the most amount of size on this, so let's just go straight on the ask at for another 10% at 295. If 295 wants to go fill, great. We're gonna ring the register on this name all the ways to the upside. NKLA showing an indecision candle, but trying to take out these highs right here. We got that alert. If it takes out uh, those highs, I'm going to do the same thing I just did with yellow. Let's go mark out some levels where this was a little bit of resistance, and I'm focused on that 350 right there. The highs that this gets to is 390. So we're looking at 350 and 390. Maybe I could throw another one in the middle of that around that 380. But this is the flat bottom break that it had no retest to the top end. So it wicks down to it, wicks down to it, and then a straight break down through that with no rejection up to this. So I'm saying 450 to 440 to 465 right here is the next areas I'm looking for. So if this gives us that break, 350, 380, and then we're looking for maybe a respect of 4, but then 440 to 450 seems like that next area that we're going to look for. Yellow, just a little bit of a wick through that, and NKLA taking out that day's high right here. So the only print we have on NKLA is actually a 309. So we still can go on the ask here. And let's just go in front of these 350s with a couple different orders. We're going to go 340 and 348 for those orders. Looking at Yell, maybe there's some other top movers here, but looking at Yell 270, still showing a little bit of rejection off that 270. 3 minutes left in this candle. Let's see if that can make that extension up there. EBS, this looks like a neckline break. We actually tried this neckline break over here on this gap up and got stopped out at the bottom of the candle on the 250 break. Is what it is. It hasn't tested that yet, but now here we are. Actually a lot more volume compared to when it was trying to test this before. Let's go look at the daily chart for this, and you can see strength is actually a lot closer this time. Before we gapped up, and this is where we're playing with it, looking at this as some sort of neckline break. I actually wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't setting up for some sort of breakout right here. So let's go ahead and set. No, we might actually just take this live trade right here, and we haven't even gotten to our third title name yet, which wouldn't have worked out anyways. This is the support we're looking at over here on this other trade, and we were thinking about it right here, where if this were to catch a bit off that support and get some movement to the upside, that's what we were looking for. So maybe this NCLH actually isn't going to be a trade. I wanted to see that first candle, and that first candle really didn't do anything there. So putting a red candle through that is 19, a level that can hold. That was the bottom end of this over here. So maybe 1883, but a lot of red volume came in this candle. Maybe a lot of people were looking at that same thing I was, where we had that 1950 support, but it didn't want to go. So let's see if there's any other notable names here on these bigger losers. I think Tell was supposed to report today. Nope, it must be after hours. Lucid giving up the ghost a little bit. We did have a trim over here in these 60s, and we said that if it pulls back into these 25s, we can think about reloading. A lot more red in the market today. A lot more red in the market today. So we're gonna just sit on our hands with the NKLA and the Yell. NKLA kind of gave a washout top right there. Kind of gives me the feel that, hey, we could be retracing all the ways back in. So all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop some underneath the wick low. So 305, I'm not even going to give 3 a chance to hold. We're going to stop a little bit of NKLA off of 305. If it holds, it holds. If it doesn't, we're just going to take, oh, what was that? That's not really a 10%. That would be about a 7% trim we're going about here on NKLA, and we're going to go at 305. So didn't get any 325s right there, but we're still going to ring the register if it wants to give up that area. FFIE, this is one that we talked about yesterday where we identified a descending wedge. Old Rudy from a couple weeks ago would have took this trade right at the beginning, especially when it was sideways consolidation. I was looking to make sure that this was going to be a sure thing. Had this put a wick down and respected these 27 halves and then caught a bid, maybe I could have caught a little bit of size. But now given the gap up, looks like it could potentially be a continuation play. Yeah, I would say that's not really a half bad look. This EBS, I think this is actually a reasonable trade right here. They have earnings coming up. Looks like not too negative, but it is negative. Significantly better quarter over quarter right there. They go from 165 to 217. Get a little bit better profitability. It looks like this probably is a better quarter, so year over year, a little better profitability is what they're expected. They were expected profitability last year, missed horribly, and that's with the stock price up at 30. But revenue of 242, still decreasing revenue year over year. What does the EBS do? So maybe this might be a company that's worth getting a little bit more information on. So I'm going to go on my off screen. If I see anything, I'm going to bring it over here and talk about it a little bit. Looks like we got some news awarded with a contract valued to a maximum of 704 million for advanced development. So we do have a decent news catalyst. They're talking about a 10-year contract worth up to 704 million. I'd say that's decent news. I could click into that a little bit. Advanced scalp up. A licensed treatment for almost 25 years, tackled serious diseases. The 10-year contract consists of a base period with 2 option periods. The advanced development is valued at approximately 121 million, and the option period treatment over 5 years is valued 583 million. If option period is exercised to the max value of the contract, would approximately be 704 million dollars. I'd say that's pretty decent news. But it was dropped yesterday, 18 hours ago. So maybe that's towards the end of the market. Maybe that's a reason for that. But I am interested in this neckline, one, because I tried it already and I got stopped out. And I think that this is kind of that decision point. You see, boom, 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 flat bottom break. It rejects it. It rejects it. Now, if it can get over top of that flat bottom break, anybody who is short in this flat bottom breakdown, take profit, reload, take some profit, hit a reload. This would be the day they're putting some stops in on a break of 8. So if it were to get over 8, I'd expect some shorts to have some stop losses put in right there. But then they were able to run this down to the downside again, and even kind of wash out the bottom. So I'm sure there were some people sitting here ready to go short. And when they go short, the next day they get news drop, and now they're kind of getting flushed out of it. That's the way that I would be looking at this. That doesn't mean that it's going to fly to the upside, but just some smaller outs right here. You have a 844 gap, so you could run this from this 90 up to that 844 gap right there, and it's 7%. I think that's a reasonable setup to maybe take a look at. So let's go to a 15-minute chart and let's keep our eyes on this. If this pulls into the middle of this green candle whatsoever, which call it a 75, let's just put an alert here at the 78. That way we can watch it if it pulls back into the middle of this green move right there. So we got the alert in. If that comes back in, we're going to play that name. I could alert it to the upside and buy it as a breakout. But like I said, I already got stopped out of it once, so I'd be sitting there at a wash sale if I try it. Zila, still one of those names we're holding. We had a 55 print yesterday, and then we seen it get up to 59. It doesn't show it here on the chart, but it was at 59, was the only thing left on the ask, and we were thinking there, this is when we put this 680. If it were to extend, we're looking at 683, and maybe I can move that down to these bottoms right here, so 64. Why did I mark 83s? Maybe it's for these lows right here. But 650s hold, and this is what I'm talking about. When you have a flat top that's building, you know how many times it wick through that flat top, and then when we actually got that true break on a 550 break, right up to 650, which is these lows over here. So I'd say Zila, if that wants to show some continuation to the upside, and Yell catching a bid to the upside. Oh boy, we are ringing the register on Yell right here. Did I have an order off in front of those 90s? We just got a 295 fill on Yell, over $1 in the money on this Yell position. Absolutely fantastic, brand new position. Fantastic. We're already at the 295 fill, that's fine. We're just taking 10% each time through. And here we're getting a 3 break. So the only thing next on my chart is these 33s. So let's see if we can keep showing this continuation to the upside. And maybe we go 318 and we're going to hammer it a little bit better off of this 330 as well. So let's go throw an order out there. We're at 310s. Ask is at 314s. Let's go another 10%. And let's just flip that to a market and take a little bit off market right here. So it took a little bit off market, and then we're going to go right off of that 33. I marked it for a reason. We're going to respect it. And we're going to take another 10% off. You know, maybe it rips right through it. Oh, I didn't have that order just in time. 333. And Yell right back in. So that actually could be the wick high. It got as high as 29s. We're going to go right off 330 for another trim. If that wants to print, we're going to print it. EBS did alert me though. So let's go back to that. A little bit of buying pressure right off that alert, which is, like I said, the middle of the screen move. That's what we're focused with. But you can see that 70 to 75, where it's boom, boom, boom. It kind of rejects it each time, and then it starts to break out. Does break higher. A quick retest of these 70s seems reasonable to me. I can see NKLA came back in. Got as low as 306. Did it stop me out of those shares there? No, it did not. We still have the 305, so holding by just a couple pennies right here on the NKLA. Did we? Let's find out. Come on, it's loading. Come on, load. Okay, so we didn't get stopped out of that 305. It got down to 306, and it's trying to hold right here. So I would say I like where my stop is at. Whenever it comes right down in, gets a penny off, sometimes that just gives you that feel that, okay, we got that stop, put it in the right place. So now I'm going to focus on this EBS, and maybe I need to give it just a little bit more time. You can see on the 15-minute how down to the 65 seems to be the body of that candle right there. So maybe we can get a starter position off 75s and go from there. Let's get a refresh on the board. Yell up 80%. Massive move. Zila rejected the 50s. That's fine. You know, I would say a notable setup right here. And we're going to go to the daily chart. This NASDAQ short. We're going to clear everything that we have right here. I would say kind of a flat bottom break right here. And why I say that is because you wick down, come down to this twice, you gap down through it, continuation to the downside, and then you reject it. But on this wick, it wicks back up to this flat top right here. So I'm going to mark these two levels, the wick low, boom, right there, the wick low, which is the body open that tries to push up and fails. And then I'm just going to mark this neckline right here. So I'd say if the NASDAQ short were to get over $18 right here, which for one, you have a gap fill where if gap fill buyers, it's come down to this very closely 3 times. If it fills that and catches a bid and then breaks over 18, all it would take is to get over these lows, and you actually could see some sort of market correction where the NASDAQ short could rip up. You know, it sounds crazy, but you know, the previous flat bottom break to the downside originally was at this 28. So if we're talking about ripping from 18 to 28, 50% move in the Nasdaq short is possible, in my opinion. Let's look at some of these non-gainers again. This ZI, I looked through the report, and this is another one of those where the guidance, and from what I looked at, is they're in a situation where they renew contracts with their clients. Well, they offer X amount of seats for these clients. So let's say this renewal process takes a year. So if we're looking back at 2022, rates weren't as high. Maybe some of these companies felt like they were in a decent situation. They didn't think 2022 was going to be all that. And let's say they bought 500 seats for this, for their employees to use this software that ZI Zoom Info Technologies presents. And what they do, they give data at a high level to their customers to be able to operate their own businesses better. Well, ZI is in a renewal process where they're trying to renew, and they might go from handing out 500 seats to only handing out 20 seats, and that's a big difference in terms of a renewal process, because if they're willing to go from 500 down to 20 seats, who's to say that they even need them whatsoever? Now, from everything that I heard, is that the people that use the Zoom info technologies are very happy with what they get. It's just everyone's in a cost cutting. I mean, how many times throughout 2023 have you seen some cost cutting uh, effect of the company be released and say, hey, we're going to open up X amount of capital because of this cost cutting efforts? Well, if those renewal processes continue going like that, that is a legitimate reason to be concerned with the company. So when this one wants to really give up the ghost, I th- I think it's a reasonable long if it were to get down to 15. High margin, they operate profitable. They announce a share buyback, which I like. They're forecasted for the year of 12% growth, which is a huge give compared to what it was. Now for the rest of the year, it's actually only 3%. So let's go to the ZI, and we're going to go over a few of the financials here. So if they're forecasting only 12% for the year of 2023, that's a significant decrease, first off. Now, who's to say that that doesn't continue that decrease where they kind of level off in revenue? Maybe they're not able to find as many clients. But all in all, high margin company, and their cost of revenue continues to decrease on a quarterly basis. Boom, decrease, decrease. So this is their newest quarter coming in, 15%, and they're forecasted for the full year to only be 12%. Now, if they move forward and they only grow at a single digit growth rate, I mean, uh, at some point in time, the margins of this company, they operate well. Their free cash flow margins over 40%. I see this as all music to my ears for a long-term investment. A little bit high on the debt, over a billion, 1.3 billion. Long-term liabilities, 4.2 billion. They only have 500 mil in the bank. Which if we go to a quarter, okay, 660 mil in the bank. Uh, there's things to like about this company, and there's things not to like about the company. I believe they had an average cost of shares bought back in the quarter at 21 something. So if the company is willing to say, hey, we believe that our stock price is worth 21, we want to buy it there. If you look at that last quarter, the price really wasn't down there too much. There was a lot of opportunities, but if their average cost is 21.50 or whatever it is, they only executed those buybacks in a handful of days. So if they're good enough to execute on their share buybacks, I would say that, you know, they probably did buy some shares today, but as long as they have some money to buy when we're down here near this 15, I would say that is a reasonable area to buy some shares. And if you catch the right areas, this gap down, I wouldn't be surprised to see it eventually get back up to that 26. So the longer it takes uh, before this kind of bottoms, the further it drops, the better your premium is for that gap fill up at 25. It might take a long time, but all in all, I would say there was things to like, there was things not to like. We're gonna give it some time. EBS, let's go take a look over here because now we are getting ready to start a position. Let's go ahead and just start a small size position, nothing crazy here, but we're just gonna get a little entry position into this and see what we can do. So a small fill right there in the middle of this green move. This is what we're looking for from the beginning anyways. Yell up to 290. 290. So even if this pulled back into 240s, we're okay holding this 175 entry. And Nikola did stop us out of those shares right there, which is fine. Maybe this needs to pull back into 275 before we can get some further movement to the upside. But all in all, it was a great first step taking out those highs. FFIE giving up the ghost back in. Let's look at this. Let's look at some of the top volume movers here. Mullen, 44 million, wick bottom right here, probably some sort of descending channel like that, give or take. So now all I'm going to be looking for is, if we trade inside this descending channel, top end of that channel, you're going to have to worry about the gap down today. Is this going to be something that can catch a bid to the upside? We normally pull up Mullen, at least once in a day because it always trades volume. But definitely probably some sort of downtrend set in here as well. Ford, we talked about Ford on this whole move to the downside from 15 that, hey, we're looking to reload 13 and in particular 294 gap. We had one candle to execute that. It was the first candle of the day. So I do apologize for not reloading that. We talked about it so much that I should have been better or should have just had the order there ready to go. And I actually really did like the earnings report from Ford. And we talked about, hey, down to 13 flat on the earnings day. Boom, right back in, gets bought up, fills this gap. Now we got a nice bull flag going. Looks good for a continuation play in my opinion. Let's go back to EBS, and just like that, nice green candle coming in. So we got our order. If this wants to keep pushing to the upside, we think that this could potentially be a nice winner for us. But like I said, we don't really have the most amount of size on it. Could have added more, but who's to say that this wasn't going to pull back in all the way to 750 where we really wanted to start it a little bit better. But all in all, over top of those lows right there is a good first step. A lot of day left for this to run. Nice increasing volume on the first two candles, 48 to 91K. Pullback candle was 37K. Now we're putting in 16K on this first 3 minutes already. So a good first start. Live trade taken right for you guys. And I would say with my talk about the NASDAQ short, I would say this is actually a reasonable setup to maybe think about punching along. It makes a move off of these 1650 lows. It comes all the ways back in 3 times and hasn't been able to fill this gap right here. The gap isn't marked correctly, but it still hasn't been filled. Now building this nice U shape. Maybe if it pulls back into like 17s, this would be a good reasonable trade to look at, and even if you're looking for a shorter move, this 1790 gap is a reasonable trade for this to run up to, which is 4%. I know that may not sound like a lot, saying we just ran yellow for a whole $1.50. That to me would be something that I may be interested in adding. Strong on the day. The daily chart looks good. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this caught more of a bid even through that 28 gap. Wouldn't surprise me if it happened. EBS coming back into these 74s right here. Is this going to have the juice to show some continuation? So a little bit above my entry still, putting me in a position. Do I want to add more size to it? If I'm right about this and we are making a run up for this 844 gap, you know, from current price right here, we're looking at 9%. And it looks like nickel will hold of that 3. Pretty decent right there. I don't like this little setup right here though, so I'm going to be a little bit more patient with it because when I see this wick coming into the middle of this red candle, I've seen it before. It's just, you know, anybody who got in short through this, you know, those same people are trying to push this price back down in the middle of this red move. The same reason I bought the middle of this green move is the same reason they are shorting or selling the middle of this red move to the downside right here. Yell giving up the ghost a little bit, but still candle number 1. A lot of green volume coming into this one. We think that this can be a winner for us still and break over top of that 3. Looking around, there's not really any big movers. The MO, we skimmed through the report. We didn't get to the balance sheet or any of the financial statements. So let's go do that while we have a minute right here. I've been long MO for, you know, some time now. I don't talk about it often, but it kind of gives me that feel like DAL, boom. You have a legitimate trend line that's been holding. You have a flat top at 48. You kind of had this, goes on a run, sells off, builds this flat top, and now we're gapping up over top of that flat top. We got as high as 46.20. Which is near this breakout level. So if it gets over top of 46.40, I would say I don't see why it couldn't make a push up for those 48s. Allison, it's sad to say that we're not a part of Allison anymore, but we had a great trade off the double bottom off of these previous highs right here and the break of the downtrend, confirmed higher low, pretty much a straight shoot up. We've been holding Allison since, you know, even over here back in January when we first started building this position. We exited the position. I really don't want to see it take out the highs, but the earnings report for Allison was damn impressive, in my opinion. The way that I took it, I thought it was impressive. EBS giving up the ghost right here. This is kind of the opportunity I was looking for to add some more shares. So let's just slowly acquire some of these shares on the way down to 50. We're going to add another small piece right here, whether it wants to catch a bid to the upside or not. Let's see if these 60s can give up. And as soon as I see the bids in the 50s, I'm going to punch. If it takes out 62s, I'm going to punch. So I'm either going to punch. We're looking at like a 4 cent, and it took out 62s. So let's 31 lots on 33. Oh, it took those out too. Well, it took those out. So now I'm looking like a hypocrite saying that we're up to 64s now, and I still haven't punched in up to 65s. Still haven't punched in. Let's add a little bit right there. Off 65s, I didn't get the 60s like I wanted. Could have got a little bit better price there, but we added a little bit on that consolidation. If this next candle, we got 7 minutes left, if this next candle pulls in any further, this is going to be the area where I'm looking to continue adding more to it. As long as we set a higher low, my out on this name is probably going to be underneath the lows. I'm not going to mess around with it there. I'm wrong on my analysis if this breaks through. So that's the high conviction that I'm looking to get. But in here, we're still, this could still act as resistance, but I'm looking at, since it pushed over top and now it's retesting, I'm looking at this as kind of a back test of this support right here. So I am going to adjust my title, and we're going to take out NCLH, and we're going to add EBS for one of those names right here. We're going to copy, we're going to change the title, we're going to take out NCLH, and we're going to EBS. And let's go take a look back at NVAX because I haven't looked at that yet today. We still have that alert in, kind of testing these bottom ranges. That's fine. We're still holding positive strength. Has plenty of time to work out some kinks still. MKFG. Let's just go take a look at this because we did have a channel marked, and maybe our channel's marked incorrectly. So I don't know if I want to play that. Strength is low. We look at the daily chart for it. You know, could still have some respect at these 190s. Let's look at some of these big movers to the downside again. ZI showing some continuation to the downside. Looks like a continuation play to the downside. NCLH has a gap fill here at this 1850. Is that something that I'm going to be willing to play right there? Maybe. Maybe. Um, yeah, I'm really not interested in any of these names. I would say I really don't like any of them. You could say SoFi maybe has something off this 990. It's got a lot to give back still. Yell still kind of trading in. Best print on Yell was a 20 something. I can't complain with it. EBS back into these 60s. So let's see if we can maybe add a little bit more to this name. We have 4 minutes and 20 seconds left on this candle. Let's see if we can go on the bid at 55s. So we got a 55 order out there. If this wants to keep coming on in, 55 seems like pretty much more of that middle green move right there. If we go from body top to body top, 755. So we're on the bid at 754. We're on the bid at 755, and I'm sure we're gonna add some at that 750 as well. So gonna take a little bit more time to figure out if this is gonna work out or not. But still decreasing volume right here. So candle number 3 pulls in even a little bit further. That is going to be an area we're going to continue adding to it. 3 minutes left. Take a drink of coffee and just sit back. See if we get this fill. MNK. Let's take a look at it. You know, move to the goes on a run, move to the downside, builds a flat top. Now taking out the flat top. Maybe if this pulls back into like 70s. There's a trade there, so let's put an alert off 69s right there and see if you know, there could be something there. Not a lot of volume. There is a decent amount of volume. It's a smaller stock, uh, but this one can get going. So yeah, looking at that daily, it's not really a half bad look, honestly. EBS got as low as 756, so 1 penny off. Yell giving up the ghost a little bit. Could have sold more up in those threes. You know, maybe I could have stopped some at 3 and just solidified some of those gains. But then off of 171 or 175, we think that this can be a move to the upside. Further move to the upside. It's going to take a little bit of time to hash out some details, but maybe if it halted down, that's possible that it could go in below my order. We'll see. We're going to have to see to find out still. Jesus, Tupperware is on an absolute tear. See if it can move higher here. This actually might be halted. Is Tupperware halted right now? Tupperware is halted right here at this 566. Holy shit. Alright, holy crap. EBS gave us that fill. So now it's just a matter of giving it a little bit of time until this next candle opens. Maybe if we need to give it just a little bit lower, let's see what it's like from the wick bottoms right there. At 750, seems like it should be an area that that should be able to hold. So right here at 755, so that's right where we got the fill. TUP, absolute monstrous move that this has had, and we haven't had any part of it, unfortunately. I know I'm a terrible trader. Terrible trader. What up, Top Josh? Just found your channel. Well, I think you found a good channel. Uh, I just got 5% pop on top. Hey, 5% is better than a lot of people out there, I would say. But I think you could get some more if you if this halt works out for you. Drift, nice to see you, buddy. Drift is the heart and soul of this channel, Josh. But I mean, I'll go over the title with you guys. I wouldn't say that everything I've done today is, I'm a unique channel, Josh. But I think NKLA is a great example of something that I'm trying to get the entry of. Trim the levels to the upside, hold a piece for the dream. So actually, what we're still holding here for the NKLA title is this 150 break. We trim the levels, we hold it all the ways against us back to 2. We trim the levels at 75 on this day. We only had one print. Held it all the ways back in the 2. Trimmed 75s yesterday, and now we got a 309 and a 305 fill. We thought if it got over day's high, we were going to get a 350 and maybe a 380. But we're trying to hold a piece for the flat bottom breaks. So I try to identify where the shorts truly take control. So you see we wick down, and then when we get through that level at this 450 range, boom, breaks down. It tries to make an attempt back up. But from this moment on, the shorts have had nothing but control. Well, now the longs kind of took control back, and we're trying to run it back up to that 450. Yell was a new one from yesterday. We were watching it here. I was trying to talk to a couple people and see what they thought about this 125 level. We never pulled the trigger. It made a run up while I was getting lunch, came back. It was at 150, and then I was talking to him again. I was like, if this took out the day's high, it looks pretty good. I didn't take it. He actually took the 155 and was able to get 170. And all I simply said is, hey, this type of look right here, the shorts are getting hammered. So I told myself today, if this opens anywhere above 150, we're pulling the trigger on it. Pulled the trigger, best print on the day. We had 10% trims all the ways to the upside. Best print on the day was a 322. We think that we can get higher though. We were on the ask at 33s. We moved it down to the wick high at 30s. So we think that we can get price movement back to the upside there. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. EBS, this is a trade that I've tried once before. And I look at this as sort of the flat bottom right here. Hold, breakdown, wick, wick, wick. So it's still rejecting this area, so I do got to be careful with this. But all in all, if it can get over top of this 775, I think it has good continuation for at least my first outs here at this 844 gap. But looking at it, not the greatest start to the position. We got the end of this candle, which was a 60, and we seen this wick start to form. So this to me looks like, shorts are shorting the middle of this red candle, while me as a long, I was buying the middle of the green move. We're still in the middle of this green move. The next fill we got, it was holding these 60s, and once it caught a bid, we actually added a little bit more off of 765, and we just got filled off 755, and now we're just looking to see if we can add a little bit more to this position. Really still not the most amount of size, but we're still not done with this position. We think if we can confirm a higher low above these 730s, we can get this to turn up, and like I said, if it gets over 775, we think that we can run it to 7 or 844. So that's the new live trade that we're going with today. The other title name is NVAX. I mean, this is a pretty good example as well of something I'm trying to get the entry of. Trim the levels to the upside, hold a piece for the dream. We were playing this sort of like a trend line. We actually tried taking this position on 7 flat on this day. We got stopped out at 690. So literally got stopped out at the low. It ends up making a push. We thought about it as it claimed 7. We said, ah, it's all right. Well, then it puts this candle where if I was just a little patient, I should have took the trade off a 770 break. Boom, we don't have any part of this move. We keep it on the watch list. We see it goes on a run and then it holds, and now it's setting this flat top up here at this 830 level. Yesterday we take the trade at 840, trim some levels to the upside. We're actually looking for this to build a flat top off of 930 and then make a run to the top end of the channel in some way, shape, or form. That's the catalyst that we're going. So if it goes against me, we're going to have to stop out at some point, but you can see the flat top that it's building. Build, 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 build. Now the open candle yesterday, we take this 840, trimmed it all the ways up. Thought about reloading, we didn't. But the best print we had was a 928. We didn't have any over 930. Well, now coming back in a little bit, we still like our 840 entry. And that's everything that we have to do with the title. So I hope that gives a little bit of an idea. It's a little unorthodox. I can understand that. Uh, but I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm perfect. I make mistakes. I mean, Drift will tell you himself. I make mistakes just as like a normal human being. I'm not going to act like I'm perfect. But I will say I put a lot of work into what I do, and I'm going to do my best to not ever let anybody down on this channel. And we actually talked about it yesterday where over the last couple weeks my swing trades that I've been in, and I have hundreds of positions, so I'd be sitting here talking for hours if that were the case. But not necessarily the swing positions were doing bad, but the new entries I was finding, I was either showing up a little bit too early or showing up a little bit too late. So the NVAX kicked it off yesterday for the week where I said I'm only looking for high conviction trades. I want all my trades to be high conviction, and yesterday the yellow, that was the main reason why we didn't even take the yellow down here, is because we're like, not high conviction enough for me. We've seen the nice volume, we've seen the pullback in, and the candles getting smaller and smaller in a couple wicks, and we actually just weren't watching it for this 130 break. We might have tried it, uh, but today the high conviction. The conviction for me is if it opened above 150, that we think that this can continue ripping to the upside. And so even though I'm buying it a little bit higher than that 125, that high conviction for me was the trade we were looking for. And our top print was, I believe it was around 80%. So a second really good trade of this week that we're able to capitalize on. And honestly, a lot of my analysis goes more in the financials. Like when I'm day trading, I really don't use near the size that I would. Well, let's scroll through a little bit and see if I can find like InMode. InMode was a company that I put a lot of analysis in, and I never traded it. Had I traded it, it would have been with size, and had I traded it, it would have been this flat top right here. Boom, on this day. We were doing a lot of analysis throughout this week saying, hey, if it gets over top of this, we really like this. So let me give you a quick example, and then we'll get back to trading. So InMode, right here, why do I like the company? Go to the income statement, clear growth. So a growing company, slowing down a little bit, but high margin company. I want to find high margin companies that are going to prosper in the long run. So 80% margins, they operate at 40%. Free cash flow margins are there. I want to make sure their debt levels are fine. They have 550 million. Their total debt 3 million. So their cash to debt ratio is like a 120 to 1. Insane. Absolutely insane. You go to the cash flow. Their cash flow positive 180 million, so they cover their total long-term liabilities in a single day. And then I want to make sure they invest their capital good. Check the box there. 45% is absolutely insane. So it was a company that I wanted to punch long, and it was just one that I never pulled the trigger on. So it's about matching up the fundamentals of the company, giving you a better feel to hold it. Let's say I took this trade here and it were to have gone against me. Okay, I'm not going to panic because I know I'm trading a great company here, where maybe I can average in more if it goes against me. Well, I missed out on the move on a great company. Now I'm going to have to be patient for it to come back in to these levels. 40 flat down into those upper 30s is what we're going to be looking for. So I'm going to stop talking, and we're just going to go back to focusing on the trades that we have in store. I hope I was able to keep with you. Maybe it wasn't too confusing. Maybe it was. I have no clue. But EBS still holding these 750s, putting me in a decision where we have the two green candle moves to the upside on increasing volume. We got the end of this second candle decreasing volume as well. And now we got kind of an indecision candle wicking down towards that level. Now, one of these things I like to do in these bullflags is mark out some retracements, top of the move, bottom of the move. You can see that 618 is that 755 level that we were trying, and that 750 would have been my 702. I look at the 702 retracement as the deadliest. A lot of people don't even use it on their retracements. You see how these are even, 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 even. The 702 goes in the very middle of that 786 and the 618. Most important retracement on a fib tool, in my opinion. I did good. Thank you. Thank you. But I never tried to correlate one day of trading as I did good. My goal is to take the best trade. Take a good trade every single time. If I get stopped out of a trade, depending on how it plays out, I won't even say that's a negative. Losing money to me is not a bad thing. As long as I execute my plan and I identify the level that I want to stop out, and I have to formulate that risk to reward and find ways to take a positive out of a negative situation. So I'm always looking for a way to get better. That's where, that's one thing that's been unique about me as long as, I can remember is that I have a way of taking a situation that's bad and flipping it into a way that works for me where I can grow from it. It's all about growing and getting better at the end of the day. That's all I'm focused on. So losing money, I'm never going to sit there, pout, cry, about losing money because it's part of the game that I've chose. It's part of this career path that I've chosen, and I have to accept the fact. Where you'll see a lot of traders, they'll take a trade that maybe they don't have the risk reward that they're looking for, or maybe they set it up improper and they end up losing money and it affects them. They let it affect the next trade. I never want one trade to affect my next one. Risk reward ratio. What's your risk reward like? It depends. I mean, sometimes I'll take, uh, I'll if I was patient with this, if this pulled into like the bottom of this candle, my risk reward would be the bottom of this candle right there. So I'd be risking 4 cents from the body, literally 4 cents, or maybe I give it that extra couple cents. So I'm already telling myself my risk from right here doesn't change the upside move. If I go back to the daily chart, if this gets over top of these flat bottom break, I'm looking at 844. So if I'm talking about it, I'm looking at a whole dollar. So this, a dollar to 6 cents, we'll say it's 10 cents. We'll say I'm going 10 cents. That'd be a 10 to 1 risk reward right there. Over 10 to 1. That'd be an 11 to 1 risk reward. Well, I think if it got to 844 and worked through some levels, I think 927 is a reasonable move. So I'm taking a 6 cent risk on something I think that could run up to 927. Now, I'm not going to say that EBS is a fundamentally sound company. They're not profitable yet. They don't really have the revenue growth. This is kind of one that I'm just trading based off the chart setup, where it passes my rules on, okay, this increase in volume right here, decreasing volume on the way down. I want the same longs that got in on these two candles to show back up in the middle of this move, where I think that this can build some sort of U shape, maybe reject some levels on the upside, but as long as it holds these levels in here, as soon as it takes out that high, I know I got a winning trade. Wow. Yeah, I know, man. This shit, it's crazy. But I promise you, you stick around with this channel. Uh, I would be shocked if you didn't hear something crazy or hear something that, maybe you don't use it the same way as me, but you're able to use it in a way that works for you. Because I'm telling you right now, Drift will tell you if he's still here. You're going to hear some crazy shit on this channel, whether we're talking about retracement plays. But honestly, the title names that we have here, none of them are names that I would be looking long term. If I was looking at, let's just scroll down and I'll try and find a company that I hold. Allison, great example right here. I'm glad because I actually just exited my entire Allison position. We've been holding this since January. We identified a downtrend. We identified an uptrend. We identified a channel break. We identified higher lows. This is where we're building. We're building through this area, and I use strength as my indicator. So you see this strength down here? This is what I use as the house of the casino. If it's positive, I believe the favor of the house is in the pot or is in the. So if you get stopped out, do you re-enter at a lower price? Depends on the company. So EBS, no, I wouldn't. I would wait for an opportunity where it would show me that, hey, we're going to take out some levels to the upside. Why? Because I don't look at this as a no-brainer long. Like if this took out the lows, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest because, one, it's a company that's struggling. If I would have to pull out some uh the financials, but I don't want to bore you with that. Uh, if it's a company that I love the financials, I believe they have a cash to debt and their cash flow covers their debt reasonably in a matter of, let's say, 4 or 5 years, and they have decent margins of like 50% gross, maybe 10% operating. Yeah, once I build that position, more than likely I'm going to be holding it. Where you can see your strength right here. I want to try and get an entry, my early entry. I call it an early entry. If you can get an entry on something before it goes positive relative strength, and then it keeps ripping, like this example over here. This is the most recent one. If you were able to get an entry, so let's say you said, okay, you're getting some increasing volume right here. You get buyers coming in the middle of this candle. If this gaps up, I'm going to buy the gap. Boom, gaps up, put the order in. Right off 1180. Boom, you get filled. You're still negative strength right there. You hold this, you get your positive break up here, and you hold a piece of the dream until it goes negative on you. So right here, you get rewarded. Nice sideways consolidation. You had to wait 4 weeks for that, but you got rewarded off that positive break. And then it comes back in. You could have got faked out underneath this support, but the strength tells you there was no need to get out of that. Strength stays positive. Boom, you get rewarded for another whole leg up from 12 all the way up to 1650. We go to the NASDAQ. NASDAQ, everyone loves the NASDAQ now. Everyone loves the NASDAQ. You know what we had? We had the golden entry, and I made the worst mistake of my life, Josh. We had size. I'm talking size here. Holding lows beautifully. We set a double bottom. We're buying the neckline. We're buying the consolidation. We're buying the breakout on this positive strength. Look at your strength. Your strength never goes negative. We cut way too much of the position on the first initial move. We got stopped out of some. We tried re-entering back in, and we said there's no way the NASDAQ is going to keep ripping like it is. Strength never went negative on you. There was never a reason to even think about selling. So these sells in this area cost me 21% on a position that I had size on. So I try to match up the technicals of the chart, I try to match up strength, and I try to match up the volume. And depending on the company that I'm trading, if it's fundamentally sound, the better the fundamentals of the company, the more I'm willing to hold it. That's what I say. So yellow, they just had news where they're going to cut operations. For some reason, it's ripping. If this were to get below my entry, I wouldn't even think about cutting it. I would just go to my portfolio and say, boom, out, done with it. I wouldn't even think twice because to me, a company that's, at this point, you're looking for a buyout type of deal, which, from a chart perspective, nice increase of volume. Your first pullback candle decreases, second candle's green volume, 12 minutes left in this candle. As long as it holds this 260 level, I don't see why it wouldn't be able to reclaim this 3. You got a nice bull flag consolidation right there. NKLA, yeah, I wouldn't even think twice. If NKLA would have gave up 2 and started coming back in, and maybe I try the reload off of 150. Sometimes if I get, so NKLA, I got a 150 entry. We trimmed pretty much a ton of the position. If it pulled back into my original entry, yeah, I'd try it. But if I tried it here and it broke down below like 134, I wouldn't even think twice about cutting it. Where if we were talking about Google, which Google, I think, in terms of blue chip companies, I think is one of the better companies because they're buying back shares hand over fist. They have great margins, great operating margins. Uh, if this were to break through this bottom, I wouldn't even think twice about adding it off this gap at 112. If that gap didn't work, I wouldn't even think twice about adding it at 108. I wouldn't even think twice about adding it off this 91 gap. I would just do it because to me, I think Google is a great company, fundamentally sound, and they have a huge moat that's not going away anywhere. It's not going away anytime soon. So to me, uh, this is a fundamentally sound company that I wouldn't think twice about saying, "Oh, I got it wrong. Oh my gosh, it's going against me. Oh my gosh, I'm losing money." I wouldn't panic like that because uh, I've done my research on Google and I'm okay holding it if it goes against me. MLK, we do have an alert that just came off right there. I'll shut up and try to focus in here. MLK, nice increase in volume off the open. Testing these, this is a pretty decent risk reward right here. Uh, you can hold it in. So I'm saying that these flat tops right here, if buyers can come in off of that level, it doesn't look half bad. Does it have an uptrend? You probably have something building right there. So if I was looking at building this position, am I going to be willing to hold it all the way in the 150? Does it get to 150? It doesn't have the most amount of volume comparing it to when we started moving over here. Nice U shape, and when that starts building, you see that volume increase nicely. 500, 550, 400, and we get the gap up, and then this is the trend line build. Only a little bit of volume spike right here, so early signs of maybe some further upside. Uh, but if I wanted to just go risk reward, I'd say your risk reward from this point on, you can average in. If it pulls in a little bit more, you can average a little bit more in. Run a stop at 160 would be reasonable because that's giving up the bodies of this candle right here. Uh, so maybe 9 minutes left in this candle. Maybe you wait and see if this candle starts forming a little bit of a wick because you could. One part that would keep me away from it is this wick right there. You see the red move to the downside. You have a little wick of buying. You have the same sellers that are trying to sell the middle of this red candle, and also it's the wick of the green candle. So the bottom wick, you're wicking up towards that already. But had you started the position, you'd be 3 pennies in the money, and you do what you want with it from there. But this is a trade that I think I'm going to try right here. It's showing me the wick of buying pressure. We have a little bit of time left. EBS working for us. So this is kind of what I was saying. That third candle kind of gives you that idea that, hey, see how the candle's getting smaller? And you do have a wick of selling pressure right there, but this is right in towards that 702 level that we talked about now starting to turn up. So working for us a little bit. It's going to have to get through the body. See how the body and the body meet up? So I'm saying to myself right now, 770 is going to be, if I had a perfect entry right here, my first trims could be that level, but I'm looking for a higher move on this. So we're going to sit back on that one for now. Let's take a look back at yellow. Still trading in that range. TUP looks good for continuation. You have buyers coming in the middle of this green candle, and that also meets up at the body highs right here. You can see takes out the high, wicks back in. The same buyers from this move coming back in. You actually increase in volume right there. Indecision, so sellers and buyers, but a nice sideways chop right here. I think you could probably run TUP for another leg up. Would be my first thoughts. MNK. Still holding this level. It actually looks pretty good. 7 minutes left in this candle. You have not the most amount of volume, like I said. There's only a little bit right here, but if it holds this level right here, I would not be surprised to see this take out day's high. Maybe give a 2 break. If it gets over 213, let's map out where we think that this can go. Well, I mean, the first screaming obvious number would be this 246 gap down right there. So 246 from current price, we'd be looking at 42% upside right there. After that, you could say some of these wick tops right here, but I like mapping out my previous lows. So tried to hold. When it broke, it rejects it to the downside. It trades above it yesterday, but this was a fluke day. Huge volume, skewed the price of this. I still look at this as a rejection, so I'd say what do we have marked right here? 213 high. from current price. 213 highs, 23%. If you're lucky enough to get the gap, 45%. If you're extremely lucky and you hold a piece for the dream, 161% would be the return that I'd be looking for taking this trade. Now, to the downside, where would I cut this? I'd give it the bodies of these candles at the very most right here. So that's 163. So from current price right here, I'm looking at 10 cents of risk down to 162. If you wanted to give it the 160 whole number, 160, you're giving it 12 cents of risk. So the closer you can get it down to this 163, 164 range, I would say the better you are for getting a better return. I gotta go and trade, Rudy. I'll be supporting your channel. You got a fan. Hey, I appreciate you stopping in, Josh. And I look forward to seeing you in the future. Go do your thing. But if you are still there, if you got a ticker in particular that you're looking at, I have no problem giving my opinion on something. But I'll leave that up to you. Best of luck to you, brother. Hmm. MNK, still just this indecision, not very much volume coming into this whatsoever. Uh, but still has some time to work out. We're still in the middle of this green move. We're going to give it this next candle and see what it does. Did that fill that? Sure did. That order off that gap would have worked out pretty decent so far. Lucid back into that 25 level. Looks like we're probably going to need to pull back into that 7 level, which is unfortunate to talk about. EBS still giving you that wick in the middle of this red move, which is a little bit concerning. Because if I trace out this red move to the downside, you can see rejecting that 382 for now, yet you're half at 70, which is a level, the bottom of that red candle. Yell still giving that look like, hey, we're going to break out higher. That look on Yell looks pretty damn good if you ask me. Uh, Dang, look at the move off of this. No volume supporting the move to the upside, so that one looks like one to stay away from in my opinion. MNK still giving that look like, hey, we want to move. We want to get going. Ziwa still rejecting underneath those 650s. Disney looking bullish. That is what we like to see. If this goes over 90, it's possible this puppy never comes back into the 80s again. I know you're not a fan of Disney drift, but you gotta say that for it to look as bearish as it did, I was pretty positive that I liked this support level. That doesn't mean that it can't reject this 90, pull back in, but getting over top of those 88s was a big step yesterday. And we are pretty confident in this long term. I should have used that example with Josh, because Disney is actually built up to one of my bigger positions at this moment in time. But I like that position. I think it's going to be one that makes me a lot of money. MNK still catching that churn to the upside. On a fresh positive break up to 177. Still very light on volume, so I'm not really buying this move yet. I'm not convinced that this move is over to the downside yet. So let's see if this can come back into the close to 170 where we're going to pull the trigger on it. What is it, puppy? What is it? Oh boy. My dog's got to go outside. Drift, I'm going to count on you to hold it down. This is the new trade we're in, so I'll clean it up a little bit for you before we leave. Just looking for a 750 hold. Alright, let's go outside. And we are back. Taking a look around, I see we got yellow wicked up to those 16s. Is this going to be that breakout area that we talked about? A hold of 3 here. EBS, nice slow churn. Given that look like we need to pull back into these 50s again, where maybe we can think about adding some more size. Did I mute my mic? Let me check. No, I didn't. Okay. Perfect. MNK, buyers still coming in respecting those 74s. Here at 76. Uh, we got a lot on our plate right now. I don't know if we want to force this yet. It was a little bit wicky up here, so it could be just a washout top and then come on back in. So we did have the increasing volume that we talked about, but a lot of selling mixed in with that. But not a half bad look. Yeah, we're rejecting those 3s for now. Is it going to be able to reclaim those 3s? Still 8 minutes left on this candle. EBS, giving a decent look. I like how the candles of the green ones are getting a little bit better, and I do like the shade bottom. In this candle, it gave no opportunity to go lower, and that happened right above that 750 range. Yell did reclaim those 3s. Let's see if this can get going. Got some names there catching a little bit of resistance to the downside, which nothing too much to worry about. Seems like oil must be down. Oil down 1%. Oil's been strong, so I'm not worried about it. NVAX still catching a little bit of a bid to the downside today. Foot Locker, still holding above 26. Nothing wrong there. Plug, a little bit of downside today, and Geo, a little bit of downside today. Let's take a look at Geo. Yeah, I had some downside come in. Yesterday we were thinking about this as being ready to kind of break out, but for all I know, it needs to pull into the middle of this green move one last time, kind of giving that washout top feel. Uh, but all in all, if it were to catch a bid and is building this flat top here at 750, if it were to reclaim 750, I think this looks pretty decent for continuation to the upside. BAC, this is why we kind of want to respect that. It's just because the gap fill doesn't work out originally. Say you get that close above that gap, well then it pulls back in and rejects that area twice. So we were glad that we respected that area, but that doesn't mean that it can't come back into the middle of this green move and catch a bid. Does it need to pull all the ways back in? Maybe, but in that territory, we're thinking about punching long for anything that we cut. So it's a win-win scenario. If this catches a bid to the upside, we're all there for the move. If it wants to come back in, we're punching long, and these are long-term shares. If it goes lower than that, does it need to have the weakness to pull all the ways back down to the gap down here at 24.5? Maybe. We've been keeping eBay on watch. I like this earnings report. Uh, for some reason it gapped down. Okay, it's not like we're in it, but down here near this 42.5 and 40 flat, we were thinking about punching long. Yellow still trying to hold threes here. Given that washout top type of feel, is this a double top? I don't know. Maybe. I'm sure some people would consider it a double top, but not me. I am not going to count that into a double top until I see a breakdown of this 250. If this were to come down and break 250, then I'd say, okay, double top. But I'm not going to sit here and guess that, oh yeah, double top is in, exit, we're gone. I'm not a buyer of that. And you know what the funny part is about that? Some people will look at a 1 minute chart and be like, oh yeah, that's double top. I'm like, how can you look at a 1 minute chart and determine whether that's a double top? Where I would actually like to see the double top happen is at that 702, which is at that last retracement. So maybe there is a catalyst for this to be a double top. Looks like we have a trend line that's brewing right here. Maybe if it gives up this trend line, it's done. But this is the exact reason why I don't use a 1 minute chart, because you got two red candles right through my EMAs. I mean, it is holding strength, so maybe that's your catalyst for it. But then boom, right there, just reclaim three. Where if you looked at a 15-minute chart, I mean, let's see where this candle closes first off. I mean, you see that was just a red candle back down in the 294, and now holding a green candle. If this closed above all of the other closes on the day, I don't see how that can be taken as a double top. That's just my opinion. So before I even would need to think about it being a double top, I'm going to be waiting for this candle close. EBS catching a nice bid uh, through the wick high right there. So working for us for the meantime. MNK, and this is what I was talking about. Why was it catching a bid off of this level, but the volume wasn't there? It was faking people out. And where did we mark? All we did, drift. Drift. I know you're still out there watching this. What did we do? We marked this wick low and said we're not buying anything until, we see some volume come back in and we get over 177. What a weird number to have to get over 177, and boom, shoots right through everything. Where, had you were taking this for a risk reward trade, you had your previous tops here at 163, boom, you're already stopped out. This is the high conviction that we're trying to look for right now. Not me a couple weeks ago, I would have punched into that and I would have been stopped out and I would have looked like an idiot right here on the stream. You know that? I know you know Drift, because me a couple weeks ago, my confidence level maybe pulled some judgment into some of the trades that I took, where I said I don't care what it is, you know, doesn't have a cent of revenue, don't care. Chart looks decent, I'm going to take it. We're going to try and take as much high conviction trades from this moment on. And the high conviction trade we had was this EBS. This is a brand new trade today. My first fill came in at 68. Next fill, 64. Next fill, 55. And now we're just holding. Let's see if this can build a U shape like we talked about. We said that these candles were getting better from candle number 1 to candle number 2. Shaved bottom, still had a wick of selling pressure into the red move. But now this green candle taking out, there's nothing in here except for, maybe this wick top and maybe the bodies. So we're looking at 788 and 792 as my breakout areas for a catalyst to push up to 822, which, from the 55, we're looking at 11%, and we have another gap up here at 927. Yellow, looks like we're going to get a close below this. That's all right, as long as we're holding above this area. Maybe this could be an area that we stop some shares out, but can still catch a bid. You had a nice green move. For all I know, this needs to pull back to these previous highs down here at 177 again. I don't know. But that is what we're looking at. NKLA still holding this 3 level, so has a chance. We think 350 is that next area we're looking to trim. 380s after that. MNK, nice wick of buying right there. Now getting some more volume, but clearly more selling than buying to this point on. Let's go take a look at that 1 minute again, see what that volume really looked like. Yeah, a lot of that volume came on the breakdown where, we first initially talked about the stops. Is this an area where we wash out some stops, the buyers buy it up a little bit, and then we can reclaim some levels? Looking at this, I would say 167, boom, 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 flat bottom break. Are we going to reject 167? But it is a nice wick of buying, to say the least. EBS catching a little bit of a wick. 6 seconds left in this candle. We don't see why, if it did reject and pull back, we can be a buyer in the middle of this green move. Ziwa testing back up to that 650 range where, this is breakout territory. If we get over this 650, I mean, I'd say that looks pretty damn good for a continuation play at least. Let's keep looking around, see what else we can look for. Take a look at end phase. Still working out some levels. We really think that if this comes back into these gap down lows, that there could be something there. Reasonable trend line. Yell still flirting around this 3 level. Maybe I think it's about that time that we can put an alert in where if this were to get underneath 270, we can think about making a decision with it. That keeps it at a whole dollar in the money still. Let's take a look back. EBS catching a bid up 784. So is it going to have some strength to be able to push up to that area? FFIE gaps up, pulls into the level now, trying to control that level around that 31. So anything above 31 looks like it could be good for a hold. So really off this 55 right now, those are just the early moves still. We're not going to think about trimming anything just yet. Because, I mean, we never had those fills off 50. We talked about getting 55s and 50s. We never did get 50s. Had we gotten 50s, we would have had some better size on this for sure. But up to 86, nice green candle. When it takes out this high, I would love to see a clear volume take exceed. If it were a perfect picture, it would actually exceed the volume on this candle. So if that's what's going to happen, we got 12 minutes for this candle to maybe be that candle. And I'm not saying it has to, but we got to see this candle show us some sort of volume increase to represent the candle that takes out this high. It's a nice looking candle though, to say the least. Let's go see what the tape looks like on it. So it says the price is at 86. It's actually at 80. So that kind of discredits what the candle's actually at. 9 lots on 81 to work through. So that just kind of tells me that the volume's a little weak. We think go on a move, sell off into the middle of that move, and maybe build a flat top and consolidate sideways for enough time. We think that we can take out the highs still. But if it happens like 4 or 5 candles off to the right, we think that that is still an area that can break out. And hold on, I just got a trade sent to me in fantasy. I gotta take a look at this. Let's see what type of trade we got going on here. Decline. Didn't have much on their side. Yeah, I'm not gonna take that trade. So I gotta trade the vote on Bo Bichette, Donovan, Brendan Donovan, for Bryson Scott and Mac McClin. Gives up Bo Bichette though. Oh, I'll uphold that. Zila rejecting those 650, so wasn't able to get over top of 650 yet. Yell holding the level. NKLA actually starting to go right here. Is NKLA going to be able to catch a bid? MNK. Yeah, just giving that stair step look. I'm not even interested in it anymore. Not interested. Yell looks better for a continuation play, but NKLA actually looking the best right now. If you were ready for it and you weren't in this, I'd say as soon as this shows you, okay, here's your bodies of the candle. This is what we're rejecting. Wick through. Okay, you've identified that. Okay, we're rejecting this 312. Wick. Wick. Well, now we're putting this nice green candle. As soon as you got over top of these highs, and you could have said that the candle before. But once this candle comes in, you get over top of that 314, which is also the bodies of the candle. That's a pretty healthy look. And I would say if I was short anywhere in this move and I was patient enough to hold it through that, that 316 to 318 would be where I'm looking for outs. Maybe 320, and that's where we're at right now. So is this going to be something that just continues rejecting this, has to pull back in? Maybe. But, this looks good for a continuation play, just the way that's setting up. My opinion, of course. MGRX, not any volume. That's the only thing that would keep me. And same with this one. This one, could look good for a continuation play, but sloppy. Am I going to be able to pinpoint some conviction? I feel I'd just get lucky if it worked for me. Yellow, this has that big increase of volume. You know, healthy candle on this top volume increase at 2.6 million, followed up with 2.2 million. Now we've traded sideways. This 275, if it were to catch a bid off of that and take out this wick top right here at 316, I think yellow looks good for a continuation. EBS showing a wick up towards that, which is fine. This might need to pull back into like mid 60s again. Now, if I wanted to, I could take a piece, but I want that first piece to be taken right off that gap. Maybe on the breakout candle of 8. Maybe I can play around with it there. Still light volume on this move back to the upside. That just goes to show me that anybody that was trying to short this in this middle two candles right here or take profit, they're not really looking to take profit in this area anymore or short in this area anymore. So maybe they try to take that profit up at the highs or short at the highs. That pulls it back in one more time before the longs truly take control. Just got to see more information. Got to see a couple more candles. Angel, Agile Hillos. Roaring Kitty posted about Tune yesterday. Maybe the next GME. Let's take a look at Tune. What do I think? I'll give you my honest opinion on it. Tune. Let's go to a daily chart, see what it's done. I see a nice confirmed higher low. I want to mark this flat bottom break right here. You could say it's right here, but if I were to get this whole flat bottom break, when it puts this candle in right there, it's rejecting it twice. So as soon as it gets over top of this, you can call it a 250 break to be safe. But up in this area, I'd say you're getting closer. It has a bull setup. Why is it a bull setup? Because it gaps up, doesn't show any weakness towards that gap. I would put this as a trend line where if it came back into that gap and met in with this trend line off this 2 flat or 196 and started catching a bid, it might be setting up this flat top right here off this 225, 230 range. That's your first start of levels that it needs to take out. Let's see more of this chart. Go to a weekly. This is actually a support range, believe it or not. That 2 level. I would just be a little wary about this because it just broke down that level and it's rejecting it. If it rejects this enough and discredits this trend line, I'm looking for another leg down actually. Now, more importantly, if you're bearing with me, I'm just going to go look at what Tune does. What do they do? Okay, I can get on board with that. Negative, but getting better. That 2020 was terrible. Getting better. Let's see what the income statement is. They don't bring in revenue, so it's not one that I'd say, oh yeah, I'm buying the support levels against strength. I forgot to mention that. Looking at strength, a lot of times I use that for the house. So if you can get the early entry before your strength goes positive here, uh, more for you. But once this gives you that positive break is when we get this breakout of this level. So I'd be more interested actually up once it can show me that, hey, we're fighting through these previous lows. Where the next thing on my mind is I'd look at it as a retracement. So my first level 260, I'd look for these, see how these previous lows all kind of match up right there, right off that 296. This would be my clear profit take area if this one ended up working for me. But financially, it doesn't look like it's going to be something that would be super interesting. Huge revenue growth. Do we have a quarter? Yeah, huge amount of revenue growth. So I think not too much share dilution, but you do have some. Let's see what that annual is looking like. They're at 32. So newer company, gross margin, actually a positive gross margin, but operate negative 70. So financially, I would say this isn't going to be the one that I would say, but that doesn't mean you can't make money on it. If more shares are bought than sold at a particular area, the price is going to go up. If more shares are sold than bought at a particular area, the price is going to go down. That's how short-term trading in my eyes works. And I think just clearing everything, getting a fresh start, this is a nice confirmed higher low. So I would just have this, if this pulled back in and met in with this 2 flat area off this trend line in the next few days, I don't see why buyers wouldn't be thinking I'm pretty bullish with this. But for today in particular, let's see at least a wick up into that area so we can see it continue building that flat top. For all I know, it blasts right through that. So let's look at this 15-minute chart. You can see a potential neckline break as soon as it took out the highs right here. You would have had them in quick on your feet right there on the gap up. You would have had to have had faith in it. And I'm sure this candle at some point in time had a wick down. So let's go to a 5-minute chart. You can see it wicks and starts to wick down. It gets as low as back right to that breakout area. So you see how I marked that neckline? It shows you it pushes it. You would have had the faith to pull the trigger off that neckline. Had you would have got the wick bottom. Beautiful, beautiful. So that was a nice clean neckline break. Is this going to be something that dies out up here? I'd say right over here, if it gets over top of 240, that's a pretty good look. So early entries right here for a 240 break doesn't seem out of the question. I could see it, but also going to have a downtrend more than likely, somewhere meeting in like this. So possibly room to run it up to this wick low right there. 440 would be a dream move. Your gap, definitely respect the gap and respect that 296 that we talked about, which is your 702. So if I was looking for a breakout and it started ripping, I think you're going to rip up to this, right up to 3. Respect the gap. If you're lucky enough to get a gap up over this, I'd say this previous low, because when it breaks it down, it puts one wick up to it and rejects it before we stayed in control of the shorts. That's my take on it. Probably rambled on way longer than needed, but that's what I'd say. But I got to stop you right there because this EBIS, which is what we were just talking about, perfect example for you here, Agile. This was a flat bottom break. Boom. Breaks it. Reject. Reject. Now, as soon as we got over top of that, look at this green candle that's coming in now. You see what I'm saying? This is the rejected previous low. Boom, 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 reject, reject, reject. And now here we are breaking through it. It acted like it wanted to reject it again. We bought the consolidation period, our best print's of 55, and now we're breaking up through that. This is when people have more confirmation that, hey, we're breaking through that level. What's you can already see the volume is picking up right here. So am I going to be interested in selling this? No, I'm going to stay true to my plan. My plan is that we're looking for this 843 gap. After that, we're looking for 927 gap, and we got to respect this like is a retracement. So if I take this retracement from top of the move to bottom of the move, that 9 flat area in with this 875. So each one of these areas as the price, if it were to keep ripping, this is my plan. So I use my risk reward as those 50s. We have an order. My first fill is at a 68. Second fill at a 64. We were sitting there watching it hold 60s. As it caught a bid, we bought 64s. And then we put an order for 55s. And we said we were going to buy 50s. And my out was going to be the bottom of this green candle. So my risk from the average, we'll call it a 755 average, was 28 cents, 3 to 4%. My reward for those 55s, my first reward, so 4% is my risk. My first out that I'm looking for is 11, next out 15, next out 19.5, next out 23. So my risk reward 4% is looking at about 8 to 1, give or take. That's how I go about looking at something. So up here at 8, beautiful start to the trade, and we're gonna let it continue. We're not even thinking about selling that 8 right now. Now that it showed us it got through that. Yell, on the other hand, in at 175 yesterday, we watched it come back in, try to hold these 125s. Didn't have the move. We said if it opens up in over top of this previous high, we're going to pull the trigger. Well, it does. We pull the trigger at 175. Best print on the name so far is a 322, and we're on the ask at 330. Mapping out some further levels of extension. That gap at 333 is what we're respecting. So the close at 333 right there, that wick up to it is very scary, which is why we went on the bid or the ask at 333. It just barely didn't fill. So I can't tell you if it was my order that scared him away, but I can almost promise you anybody who has a fill down here has that gap at 333 identified. So looking at just hearing about the gap fill to get damn close like that and try the test up twice, is it going to be able to take out that gap? And if it pushes higher than that gap, where are some possible extensions that we're looking for? Well, let's start with the next high, which also kind of meets in at these lows right here. So you gap down through it, you reject the low, wick up towards it, false break up towards it. So those 380s, 360 to 380s, that next area we're probably looking at. But a big part of this false break to the upside is it filled this gap. You see that? So if we get over top of 4, my next gap fill area, you have your previous highs here at that 450, and you got a gap here at 496. I think it's possible that it could get there if it started going crazy. It would need to start going crazy, of course. But looking at this EBS, I think we have a winner here. Just going to need a little bit more time. You had the volume increase, took out the high. Doesn't need to pull back into 780s. That's what we're going to be looking for. I'm not too familiar with Roaring Kitty either. Is Roaring Kitty somebody that trades those type of meme stocks? Which I'm okay trading meme stocks. Like I said, as long as more people want to buy or not more people, if more shares are bought than sold, the price is going to go up. That's just common sense in my eyes. That's how short-term trading works. Maybe you're not still there or not. Maybe I just talked too much and maybe scared you off. I don't know. But looking over at NKLA, we think that this is a pretty solid setup. Kind of wash out some shorts in this candle. Anybody short in this move, nice consolidation, nice volume increase to take those shorts out. Hopefully. Hopefully there's not any big size sitting up here at this 325s. We don't see why it couldn't pull back into these 314s and catch a bid. But for you, Agile, this is why I like to identify those levels right there, because you see a nice move. We took no part in this move. We watched it come all the ways back in. We took no part in this move back into the downside. We see it start building this flat top here at 150. We said, hey, if it takes out that 150 today, we're going to pull the trigger. Let's go take a look at what happened and what transpired from that. There's your 150 break. Still pretty light volume, only 1.3 million. And boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Get the entry, trim the levels to the upside, hold a piece for the dream. Yes, we are still holding NKLA from that position. May sound crazy. It works for me. Doesn't mean that's going to work for you. That's just the way that I have found myself to be successful. Whether it's all correct or not, at the end of the day, it's still my opinion. It's your job to take the information that I present and use it to benefit yourself. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is to find ways to benefit yourself. You know, tune, I will say that the way that low comes in like that is worthy of adding to this watch list. You know, looks like interesting. No, I say it's a worthy add to the watch list, and that makes it number 627 for this large watch list that you see right over here on the right. 627 tickers I'm trying to keep up with. So feel honored that Tune just made that list, because I hold a lot of respect to this watch list that I've been building over time. You name it, it's on this watch list. At least something similar. MO did report today. Uh, Pretty even with what analysts were expecting. Kind of gave that fake out top right there, but still buyers coming back in. Let's see what the 15 looks like on this. So it came all the ways back in, now trading around a flat. Okay, so be it. EBS, wick of buying pressure coming into this previous high is a good first start for continuation. And now candle has turned green, still indecision. NKLA still holding indecision candle. Some buyers coming in off the top of this wick. So that's a good sign on NKLA as well. Yell. The candles very tight. Each wick candle has a wick of buying as we're approaching in. Doesn't need to put a red candle through that. You know, maybe I can put an alert down to that 277, see if that gets alerted. Maybe we stop out some shares off of that. I don't want to risk waiting for the breakdown of this consolidation right here. But 250 is probably going to be my out on this name. Let's look around and see some more though. Ziwa right up to that 650 range again, tapped slightly above it. Is this going to be able to give us our break to the upside that we're looking for? Disney giving a washout top right there. Does it come all the ways back in? I don't know. But 6 minutes left in this candle. If it can close above 89.60, I'd say it's a decent look for continuation. I think Disney is a legitimate long play to think about. You know, I know it's a little bit off the bottoms at 85. But I'd say, in my opinion, that the further away you get it from 100, that's the premium it's trading at. So in my eyes right now, it's still trading at 11% premium, where you can get a move back up into these 120s is entirely possible. But to hold that support I don't see why it couldn't make a push up to those 120s. Yale kind of giving up the ghost just a little bit. Just a little bit, not too much. I still expect to see a little wick of buying. There is still a little wick of buying, and they're respecting those 80s. EBS, it is still an indecision candle. Maybe needs to pull back into this green top right here. Those wick tops, which is 82s, which looks like a pretty decent setup, in my humble opinion. TUP setting up this flat top. If it were to get over top of this 590, how many sellers are on that 6 flat area? It's tough to say, but not a half bad look. It's a nice sideways consolidation after this green candle took out the open. Now we'll say 4 minutes left in this candle. Volume is picking up compared to these couple candles over here, but still decreasing from this take out the high. And one part that I mentioned about when it takes out the high, I gotta see an increase in volume. Is this enough volume increase to satisfy me? You know, I would have actually liked to see it at least over top of this first candle, but that is the opening candle of the day. So it makes sense that maybe it's not able to take out that in volume. But had it, I promise this price would have ripped. I shouldn't say promise. That's probably the wrong word. Would have been confident that if this volume was anywhere near this with an and closed as a full green candle, this next candle would have showed continuation. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to think about trimming it right here. We think that we have a pretty good entry for some continuation, and looking out in advance, if it closes up, you know, you can see the current price. All right, if it closes above, we'll call it 8. If it closes above 8, I think this looks like a name that could continue and rip up higher. Probably has a downtrend, something like that. So that's maybe meeting in right off that gap fill. It's possible. Looking at Nicholas, still holding 320. Yale still holding that 280 range for now. EBS still flirting around with this 8. AI took out the flat top that we've been watching for some time, and that is what it looks like when you take out a flat top. Is this going to be able to rip up to the top end of the channel? I don't know, but this is the first sign that I would say is looking like it. Top end of this channel is right here, so for me not having the true 42 break, we were talking about this at 39.50. Remember that drift? 39.50. We got stopped out. Built this flat top. Boom. Took it out. Consolidation. Pulled back in the 40s. Now taking out the highs. Testing the top end of the channel. I mean, we had this on the money. Everything was set up how we thought it was going to go. And here we are. It just sucks. It just that falls on me for my execution. Me, I had it set up properly and we didn't execute. Plain and simple. Now I got to find a way to take that and be better the next time. That's on me to do that. Zila still rejecting the 50s. MNK, nothing burger, no volume, not surprised in the slightest. That was the main reason why we didn't even like it in the first place. This volume was not convincing. Yo, giving up 80s temporarily. Is this going to be a start for this curl? You see the frowny face being made a little bit here. Not going to say, there's a minute left, so there can still be some buying pressure. But underneath 275, that keeps it at $1 a trade. We can think about maybe cutting a little bit. Yell. And the buyer's still holding it in. So underneath of that wick, we're going to stop some shares out at 273. If it gets there, we're going to stop out a piece. Stop loss 273. If that triggers, it's going to trigger. But this is the candle that we want to see. Last minute of the candle showing us that wick of buying pressure. Now I'm bullish as hell, hoping for this to catch a bid to the upside. I don't know if that, I mean, this is everything, but EBS is starting to break out. This is what we talked about. Back half of that candle, buyers coming back in, pushing that 8. I mean, I don't know if you're still here, Agile, but this is, I mean, you match this up to the tune that you were talking about. We looked at this as a flat bottom break, reject, reject, reject. Now truly breaking over top of that 775 and now pushing 8. I don't see why we can't get this gap up here at 845 now. Uh, I shouldn't say that it's going to completely get there, but this is a strong move off of this consolidation period. If I was just mapping out the highs and making this an ascending channel like that, this is kind of what I'd be looking for. You know, if I clear that whole chart out and we're just going to map this out like an ascending channel. Just like that. And then we're going to go back to our daily. It doesn't look proper right there. Bear with me. We're going to mark that gap right there. Go back to that 15-minute chart. This is what we're looking for. So top end of the channel is where we're looking for our trims. So we're going to start probably off this 825 and work our way up all the way to that gap fill. If we're able to get some movement off of that for further movement to the upside, here's my next gap. And let's put a retracement tool up. My 618 is 75s. My 702, which wicks down to, happens to be at a 9 flat. So boom, just like that. We have everything mapped out how we want it. And let's see if this can show us some continuation to the upside. Like a clock. You know what I'm saying, Drift? Like a clock. Looking at Yell, is this going to be able to start giving us some curl to the upside? We need some buyers to start coming in. I'm going to switch this alert to those 84s. That way I can know to come back to it. But EBS continuing to show that green candle, turn to the upside, right up to 817. This is more of the breakout that we were looking for right here. Let's see if this can keep churning to the upside, where maybe we can think about these 25s up to 30s for a potential trim here. Like a clock. Ziwa still rejecting 650. Yell still holding up decent. NKLA putting a wick down closer into these candles. So just marking this body candle, that's what I want to see the price really hold over 315. But if it pulls back in further, you know, the body of this candle is wicks. I don't want to see it get underneath this body, but if it did, you have a little bit more protection off that 310. So looking for this to give us some sort of churn to the upside. Is it setting up a flat top here at 322? I do not know yet. But EBS continuing to catch a bid to the upside, and I'm almost inclined to just go take my first profit take on this EBS. Let's see what the tape looks like. We got 12 lots on 18, one lot off 16, so not a lot of buyers stepping up to keep pushing this, but let's see if it can take out these 18s. Where I think 825 is that first level that we're going to be looking for on this. And it took out those 18s, only 2 lots on 20. Let's get that sell order for our first trim, which is going to be a 5% trim off of 825. Looking at 5% trims, ringing the register if it gets there. Yell crossing over that 284. Let's look back at the yell. Not the best look. It looks like we have a 373 or a 273 stop for some shares. It's just a trim, but I would say this is going to get executed here. Is it going to have the resilience to hold above that at 75s? We're watching EBS. We're watching NKLA. We scroll down a little bit. We watch the Zila. Those are the names we're trying to work today. Always ringing the register on something. And just like that, the stop holds like a glove. Got as low as 75s. We're on the stop for a trim at these 73s. Is it going to be able to hold or not? Let's find out. It's going to give us that feel here very shortly. Best print on the name. Let's go back and take a look. I forget what it was. 322.71 was the best print on the day. So that was right here. Almost high of the day. Print on it. Pretty damn impressive if you ask me. Getting as high as 20s here. Take a look over at NKLA. A nice wick of buying coming in towards that area of 315. So that's a good start for, you have a pullback candle that tries to wick higher. Now getting a little bit of indecision. That's fine. It's all part of the plan. EBS up here at 818. Let's go take a look back at the EBS position. Bid gave up 17s there. Now we're on the ask at 17s. Looks like we're actually at 15s right now. So weren't able to push higher, but we think if we give this the rest of this 8-minute candle that some people are still looking to punch long here, in my opinion. FFIE was actually able to fight through. The body of the first candle rejected it originally, broke up, and now holding it as support, which is actually a good sign. Volume starting to increase, so I'd say the next level you want to be looking for it to get over is the body of that candle and the wick top. So right here is that breakout area for an early entry before it truly breaks out up at this range. So a lot of stuff that needs to work through still, but not a half bad look. I really wish I pulled the trigger on this when it broke this descending wedge. It gave a nice consolidation period at these 28s. So honestly, I'm saying that the longs are truly in 16% already. So keep that in mind when you're trading it. EBS wicking up towards the top end right there. Is that the top end of the channel possibly? Maybe. Maybe, but I'm not going to count it out yet. Still got 7 minutes left. Not too much size, but I would expect some buying pressure as it retests sort of the previous candle. I don't know if this candle would be the one that turns red to pull back in. If it did, that's on me for not taking profit right there. We got 5 pennies off from my order. I still think it can get there. That's just me being honest. Ziwa still rejecting 50s. Disney was not able to hold those 60s, so this candle was breaking out, and we said that if it can hold 60, that looks good for a continuation. Maybe needs to pull back in towards this wick top right here, which rejects it at the open. So looking for 30s to hold. Looking back at Yell, stop still held like a glove. Doesn't need to pull back in further. Maybe it does. EBS, still holding a green candle. Volume is still picking up. We got 6 minutes left on the candle. So Yeah, all in all, I mean that's everything that we're looking at. So I mean, if you guys got anything in particular you guys want to take a look at, uh, be my guest. Is this going to be the wick high of the day on EBS? Maybe. I'd be surprised if it was. I really would. Just looking at that daily chart, this candle is a nice level that it's breaking over, just marking those bodies. I mean, that's a nice price that's holding over. So anything over that, I'd say it looks good to hold into the close, honestly. Uh, Getting close, approaching that positive break on strength, on a volume increase. All it would take is the following day, tomorrow, for this to catch a bid and this strength to keep running. Not a half bad look. Not the greatest name though, but it does have positive news catalyst on top of that. I think it's reasonable news. I mean, if we just pulled over the headline right here, awarded 10-year contract, maximum up to 704. The first year, this is a breakdown. First year the contract is 121. Next 5 years is 583. The next 5 years after that, it gives up a lot more of its value, but that's the contract that it has drawn up. So if they execute those 5 years, that's 120 million a year that they just added onto their last earnings report. Only put up 165 million. So I'd say that contract alone is a pretty significant news catalyst to back up what we're buying right here. And for it to have this set up the day after it comes out with news like that, I think this is going to be one that we can hold for this move that's about to start. My opinion, of course, that doesn't mean go frickin' jump in with everything you got. I only have small size on this. But sometimes when you get the golden entry like we felt we just got, sometimes a small size is all you need. I mean, nickel is a prime example of that from this 150 break. Sometimes just small size is all you need, and you can make it into something that's bigger than what it truly is. And nickel actually catching a bid. This candle turning green. Is nickel going to start breaking out right here? This 325 claim right here could be something juicy. So let's watch nickel and see if this has anything going for it. Looking at tune, just not any volume to go off of. I'm sure if it were to take out 330, it might. It just gives that feel to me like we got to reject that area, pull back into this trend line. Looking at Yale, still holding a nice second green candle. Volume has already almost exceeded yesterday, which is absolutely insane. Still holding above that stop area though. That is the crucial. Zila still under 650. Maybe we can take a look over at Lumen. Is that a confirmed high or low or not? Looks like they're supposed to report earnings today, apparently. I'd say your previous low right there, boom, bottom break, flat top. So right around that 2 flat level. Yale still holding, nickel rejected, EBS still holding above 8. So nothing too volatile yet. Sometimes just working a little bit of patience is what it needs. Still holding a nice green candle in this EBS. We have 40 seconds left. We've seen everything start picking up, yellow included, where everything picked up at the back half of that candle. Is that what we're going to see transpire here? Nickel is still trying at these 320s. Still indecision. You got some selling pressure up to those 25s. You got some buying pressure up from the low of 16. IDIA, like we said, had it showed us some volume like this earlier, we maybe had a little bit more confidence with it, but I don't know if I can pull the trigger on this one. Fresh kind of break as a knife all the ways to the downside. It's made this move, and now we're finally just at the resistance that I'd want to see it be breaking over. Maybe that's a catalyst to punch along for it, but I just don't see a need to do so. Let's go look at EBS at the back half of this candle. We have an open of the next candle, a nice close on that. So we got 8:15 close, 8:14 close. Or Yale just gives a feel like, hey, we're gonna have to trade down a little bit more. Does it catch a bid from this moment on? Maybe. Move that alert up to the bodies of this candle, not because of this 34, but because it's the bodies. MNK now red on the day. That's what we said about it. That's what we said about it. Just the volume is nothing. There's no buying that's pushing it. If it was going to do it, it was going to do it right here, and it didn't. So, and then if the volume was going to come in to hold the price, we would have seen it right there off of 70s, and it gave it up right away. There was nothing on the vine that held it up. Not interested. Uh, That's the part that we're looking at. We're trying to be better. We're trying to go only high conviction trades. Nikola now catching a bid. Start of this candle. Is this going to be the candle that's able to break this higher? Let's find out. Two plays that we got right here. Working back and forth. EBS and Nikola right next to each other. Let's get a refresh on this. See what else we can see. No volume on this. No volume on phase. A nice candle close on this FFIE. Off of that channel break. That was legit. Those wedge patterns right there. Boom, gaps up. Made the decision right there. We didn't pull the trigger on it. That's on us. AI looks strong, but leaving this sort of resistance to the top end of this channel still. Zila showing more of a breakdown. If I were to say that this was some sort of uptrend right here, maybe we can stop some shares underneath of this wick low. Give it 25s. We go 624. We'll stop some shares out on Xela. We'll just go for. We're still gonna hold a piece. We're just gonna stop out some shares at that 620. If that executes, I mean we're still taking over $1 a share, but I don't think it should execute. Looking at it, we're just playing safe. Where if we are able to get this back at 6, we can buy those shares back a little bit more confidently. The wick low of the day is 26, so if this candle turns red, EBS a little bit of rejection. Nikola still rejecting 25s. IDAI breaking over top of that level. Even with the move that I had to the upside, if we were taking that 130 break, 15 pennies in the money. Absolutely extraordinary right there. Boom, 11%. Nikola giving up 20s. but still trying to hold 20s. Still got some buying pressure. It maybe needs to pull down in the 315 before we can actually break higher. It's possible. EBS, are we getting candle pullback number 1 for the retest of 8 to 790? Ugh. Look at that Norwegian. That was one that we had on watch off that gap. There's the wick low, there's the gap. Would have been good shares bought. Would have been one that you could have put some size on as well. ZI kind of formed that bottom right there. I'd expect the company to have executed on some buybacks right there. But you know, we're looking at this 15 level as our breakdown, where this we're looking at as a long-term company, high margin, competitive advantage in its space. The space is just catching a little bit of resistance in itself, not from a chart perspective type of resistance, but an industry-wide position of what they do. Catching a little bit of resistance. We liked the earnings. The only part we didn't was looking forward and getting a grasp of what the renewals were really like and how big of a problem is that going to be. I think looking out into 2024, I think this company itself is going to be fine. They've consistently put high margins north of 80%. They operate in those 30s. Free cash flow margins consistently above 30%. You know, they announced a new buyback program. You know, I'd expect them down here to be executing that buyback program. If they aren't right here, they probably are. They're going to keep buying back as it keeps going lower. Uh, Fundamentally sound company, so I get really excited when I see down 25% on a company I would be willing to punch long term on. Just not going to do it today because of a huge break of that support level. I say the same thing about Enphase. Enphase is a company I want to hold long term. Uh, do we start that off this sort of trend line that's been holding? Boom, 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 boom. Now here we are. Are we going to be able to hold this trend line? If it breaks down the trend line, well, do I respect the gap fill here at 140s? Do I respect the lows down here? Do I let it sell off, come all the ways back into 100? I don't know, it's tough to say, but I do get excited when I see companies I like long term catching some resistance to the downside. Yell, still holding the level. Let's go to the 15-minute. You know, possibly that 270. Maybe I move that just a true stop for everything that we have underneath these 50s and just let it ride. Because I got a feeling this is going to stop me out of those shares, and then it has a chance to curl up and break 3 again. AI showing you a leg up, getting closer to the top end of that channel. Nicholas still trying to hold these 20s. EBS got a little wick of buying there. Gonna need more than that, but a little wick of buying there is a good start. 7 minutes left on the candle. Let's go look at the bid. 3 lots on 13, so it's a true 13. It's not a larger spread where your bid's down here. It's a true 13. You got 2 lots on 15 to take out. Took out 15s, bid those 3 lots, climbed up to 14s. We got 1 lot on 16, so not too much selling pressure off of first glance off of this tape, but I mean, I can't see out in advance up here into these upper teens. But all in all, I think it's a reasonable look. Now it says we're at 14s, but our bid's only at 12. So I think some of the longs are just kind of waiting. A slower mover as well. Yell, how low did Yell get there? I seen it at 77s. And we're going to get stopped out of some shares here. Unless we make the decision to take that order off, we're going to get stopped out of some shares here. Let's go see what the tape's looking like on Yell. It does have a little wick of buying there that could maybe hold it. Yeah, only 2 lots on 78. I would be surprised if that holds. It's gonna come test back down in the 75s. We'll see what our true tape is like on 75s here. There we're getting a little bit more size coming in off 78. So bid stacking a little bit off 78. That's a decent, but I still don't think it's gonna have enough juice to hold it from testing 75 again. I'd be surprised. Took out the 79s. We got 20 lots on 80s. NKLA back above 20s. EBS still just kind of holding flat on this. It maybe needs to pull back down in the 8 before it makes any notable move, but I'm not taking a piece out right here. I think I'm selling myself short. Like I said, we don't have the most size. We have, we have a position. How about that? I'll disclose that. Where if this is your trend line, this is your channel. We think that we can get this up into those 30s. Where the bigger picture, don't listen to that trend line because that's a little bit false. But our gap is actually at 44s. So looking back at, the candle has turned green now. So, if this wants to be a continuation play, we got 4 minutes left in this candle. Let's see it push up where we're on the bid for a 5% trim off of 825s. Building the position down here, we'll say we have a 760 average. 7% up the current price. Not terrible. But we got to get some fills first. Yell? I can't even believe that. I can't believe Yell didn't give that breakdown through those 75s. The stop is still holding strong. That is hilarious. Oh, good lordy. Lordy, lordy. Nice hammer candle right here. Nice wick of buying. Not the most amount of buying pressure right here, but we have 3 minutes left, and here we're getting the full green engulfing. If we get over 91s, that's a really good step in my opinion. Just gotta do it though. Over 91, so I gotta see that 92 and see some buyers come in. Let's look back at the chat. Do we got anything going on? It doesn't look like we have anything going on. It's crazy. I present nothing but gold every day it seems, but it's all right. EBS, like we talked about. So we talked about 7% before we even took anything off of it, but we're expecting this 8 to be decent support, and even if it has to pull back into the previous high, that's flirting around with that area that we don't want it to. Just marking these lows right here. 777 is what we want to see it close over if we're being greedy. The body of this candle is 8, so we really want to see a close above 8. But we'll live for a close above 777. A little bit of buying coming in off of this 8. My honest opinion is that, that's not terrible. Oh, somebody must be here. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So still getting a little buying off of this 8. Looking at Yell. This is flirting with a potential breakout right here. Here we have the open of the next candle. I would expect good buying off of these wick tops right there. We're right at it right now. This should wick into that if this is legit. If this is legit, it's gonna wick into that. Yep, boom, just like that. If you're looking for a late entry, you just got your entry for this potential breakout right there. You guys watched it live, how I would have played it right there. Buyers right off of that level. Boom. And there's your break of 3. Just like that, guys. Your 10, 13 cents in the money. That's just a profit take of anybody who just got a golden entry off the bottom of that wick. They just ran that 4%. Boom. Nice scalp trade. Now, if it comes back into that level, they're looking for, reloads off of 3. Buyers keeping it above this 3. Let's see if this is going to break out here. Boom, boom, boom. Let's get a refresh on some of these top movers. See what these ZI right around 19. NCLH, we were really thinking about it off that gap. We just didn't pull the trigger. We'd be a nice position in the money had we tried it there. NVAX, catching some resistance to the downside. We haven't talked about NVAX yet. But this is where we have the alert where, okay, if we get underneath 75s, this is where we're going to try and look a little bit better and see if we can see anything that's going to make us want to get out of the position. But you guys don't want to see that right now. You guys want to see the yellow breakout. Yellow, I mean, this looks prime for a breakout. And we literally, on stream, just called the bottom wick of this candle, potentially, right off the previous highs. I mean, I'm just saying, if that's how I seen it, that's how I would have played it. We got a gap up on EBS as well, so I don't really like when it gaps up. That just shows that there wasn't any liquidity for this candle to move over and start at this same price. So, I would really like to see this just really quick pull right back down in the 806 and fill that. I don't want it to make a run up and then say, hey, we can short this back down to this 806 all day. Like if this was up at 840s and somebody said, which I'd be 100% fantastic with that. But I think it would jeopardize the further move if there was something more than that past those 840s, or maybe it only gets up to 25s or maybe even 20, the wick highs, and they say, hey, we got to get this back down to 8. And it just rinses out everything that you worked for moving back up to 13. I don't know, that's kind of how I look at it. Maybe my chart is just wrong as well. But we're going to keep an eye on this yellow. So now I really feel good. If it were to get underneath of those 75s, we could be thinking about a potential exit on the name. But let's see if we can hold a piece for the dream here. Where we're on the ask at 30 still. Still fighting right at this 3 level, so I mean nothing really too crazy yet. I'd say over 290, you're good. NKLA, nice sideways consolidation, continues to project those 25s. Yell giving up 3 for the time being. Not over yet. I don't think this fight's over. We got a whole 10-minute fight that's about to take place right here. Roaring Kitty posted about. That's a good one. Agile. Roaring Kitty. Who the hell is Roaring Kitty? I've never heard of Roaring Kitty before. Tune is trying to catch a bid though. I'd say that 240 is where you'd want to try it though. Still just not a lot of volume this last candle. Only put up 500 in volume. Yeah, I'm just not sure about the Roaring Kitty advice yet. You know what is catching a bid though is FFIE. Did Roaring Kitty call this one out from a fucking descending channel wedge? The fuck out of here. Roaring Kitty. EBS, this is what I actually kind of wanted to see. Pull back into this 806, just fill that, and let's see it keep holding this level. Giving you the inside candle, inside range of the previous candle. Disney giving up the ghost all the ways back down, even below where we even said we'd like to see it hold. Is there some sort of trend right there? Wicking up towards that 90 though. We'd expect 88 to be good support. Very good support, 88. Yellow, reclaim 3. Like we said, this is going to be a full 10-minute battle here. This ain't over yet. EBS, a nice wick of buying pressure right there. Is this going to be able to give us that move? The longer we consolidate, the more the top end of this channel gets us to that gap fill inside of the channel. So I'm actually okay with the sideways consolidation, where I'd say 825. We're going to start trimming, and as it keeps going, we're going to trim it all the ways up to that 844. Over top of 844, we think that this name could be primed for a little bit more of a breakout. Well, there's your gap down, flat bottom break, top end up to 890. Here's your next gap, marking these lows right there. This is the plan we're sticking with right here. Let's look at some of these other names. Array. Let's query the whole chart on this. Giving you that feel like kind of descending channel. But this from a risk reward perspective, I'd say is right around where you'd want it. If this flat top's legit enough up here at 24, we're trading at a 30% premium. Just strength isn't there. A lot of wicks into this trend line. That's the trend line that's trying to hold. But gaps down. Are we going to get a flat bottom break? It's kind of what this would play out for me like. You have a gap here at 1770 and you have a gap here at 1721, give or take. You know, does it need to pull back down there? I bet the weekly chart is still, weekly chart giving you a breakdown as well. Is this trend line going to be anything worth it? Does it need to break down and test all the way back down to 6? That's where you'd risk. So I'd say you give it this trend line. It's a decent risk reward trade in my opinion. Yellow still holding. EBS now turned into a green candle, giving you that look like, hey, we want to break higher. Nickel is still holding 320s. Zila, there we are. Yeah, so we do have a stop put in for a trim on Zila, just making sure we lock out some profits. Seeing if there's any red to green moves, no volume on that. We just refreshed it. We do have one no volume though, so we're not gonna no volume. See if there's any other ones that looked like they were getting close. A little bit of volume here. Doesn't look too interesting though. Been a long man, Gilead, if I was just looking at the financials and didn't have a chart, I would punch long right here. I would punch long. This looks like a beautiful W pattern, retest to the neckline. So these low 70s, again, what kind of discredits this trend line. But expected $1.64 a share. You got a 75% dividend, so 4% dividend. High margin company. Quarter over quarter increases on both is expected. Are they going to be able to do that? Let's look at some year over year numbers. Where the year over year numbers, EPS about the same, but revenue wise, still showing some growth in this company. EO officially giving up the 3 at the back half of this candle. Is that going to be something that, is this a triple top? I bet somebody's sitting there just like this saying, yep, triple top's in. I'm not going to give up on her just yet. Triple top's in, short it with your life. Let's hopefully somebody's out there shorting that with their life. I'm not trying to root for somebody to lose their life. But if it were to get over that and that was taking place, he gets put in a tough position real quick if it rips up. EBS, a minute left in this candle. Still wasn't able to fill that. I got 1 penny off. So I really just wanted it to wick down there and fill that 805, but just wasn't able to. NKLA really setting up this flat top at 325. If it gets over 325, we could be seeing some nice green candles come on in. Let's see if we got anything else transpiring here. T-Cat, not the most amount of volume. Swivel, no volume. Intap. Could be something there on Intap, honestly. Has enough liquidity to hold her tight. Eh. We got 4 million shares on this red to green move on MO. Which that's what I was gonna do. So let's watch. Ooh, yellow, yellow. That guy that's short off of that. He's put in a tough position right now. This looks like the volume's increasing. 20 seconds left. The back half of these, or the last minute of every one of these candles has been something. And here we go with NKLA. Still rejecting that area for now, but a close above 3. Oh, and it sells off right here. Is this going to be able to hold? 10 seconds left on this candle. Oh, come on, get back over 3. Come on, 1 second left. Gaps down. Is this going to be the move through it? And it looks like this could be it. This looks like it could be it. Yellow, we still have that same stop trim in, and we still have that same trim off of 330. We're going to cancel that 330 trim for right now. I think we're going to move this stop down to 270, and we're going to say that this is going to be the out of our position. That keeps the whole position. Let's replace this. We're going to make it the rest of our position here, and we'll even go 68. Even though we got the bodies of the candle right here, no, let's go 70s. I like the idea 70s. Nope, 68. We'll give it 68. So we do have a stop in, and that is a dandy of a trade with the position that we have left. EBS showing the next candle, so we got to close at that 810. I still wouldn't mind seeing this come back down to 805. Just fill that gap up real quick. But given the look like, hey, we got the decreasing volume, indecision on both. There wasn't any red engulfings down into that 8 level, so that's a good sign, I would say. Yellow, is this going to be able to hold? $68 is going to be our out there. Nickel right at this 25 though. It got as high as 26. Let's go see if the tape is. Nope, it's not. Just gave up. But now the tape could be holding those 25s. It very well could be. So let's go take a look at Nikola. It isn't. We got 20 up and right through it. Here we go. Here we go. That's a day's high print on Nikola. Washout top. That's been the story of it so far today. Can some buyers come back in? 144 lots, 160 lots, 250 lots on 24s, and there it's trying to stack over those 25s quick. Man, this guy sitting there short off of this is one lucky you know what. Nikola giving up the ghost a little bit. Still has a little bit of buying there. Is this going to be able to hold this level right in here? I do not know yet. Now I'm probably going to regret selling this 270 if it triggers. Even if it pulls back in more into this green move. But maybe I'm lucky enough to try this back off of 171 one day. Or 170. Or maybe even just go off of these tops right here. EBS candle still looking quite nice. I mean, this could be a risk reward trade right here on this SoFi. Potentially. Still holding that level right there. Yellow, what did it get down to? Did I get stopped out there? We're right at this level. 76. Are we going to get stopped out here? Don't do it to me. Don't do it to me. Holding the 75s by the grace of God. EBS, getting ready for a breakout here. We're on the bid, or on the ask at 825. Let's see if we can get this fill. Only trimming 5%, but I mean, I've been waiting to ring the register on this since we got in. Let's see if we can get this fill here at 825. So it looks pretty good. We'd like to see a lot more volume than what it has transpired so far, though. So maybe this is an opportunity to trim a little bit right here at this breakout level. Let's go ahead and do so. I don't want to, but let's go ahead and do so. Maybe we got to trim some to get a move higher. Sometimes that works. May sound crazy, but ringing the register, we got a. Did we get a 220 print there, or 820 print? We got an 81915 print, rang the register, first print on the name. That is what we like to see. NKLA gave up the level a little bit, tested down towards that same level it did on this candle. On a red engulfing candle, you know, we have the best print we have on NKLA today. We got a 305 and a 309. So is this an opportunity for us to trim a little bit off this level? There we go. My mouse was off a little bit. Oil, you know, notable move on oil as well. Tried giving up the ghost a nice 80 half hold, which is your previous highs. Look at that. On the money right there, just marking that flat top. I was I was looking at the left, just marking the flat top right there. Boom, direct wick. Crazy how that works out. Yellow, still holding that level. We think that we can print this name higher. EBS down to 819. Forward is gonna, just like Hib, it's gonna let us know, why didn't you pull the trigger off that gap? Why didn't you pull the trigger off 13 flat? She's gonna let us know. Hey puppies, it's okay. EBS, sometimes the volume is the teller. As unbiased as I want to be, the volume was a little light on this move up, which up here, this is where you'd expect the volume to be up, you know, around where the volume was on the move. So maybe a little bit of concern there. Could be a washout top coming in. Okay, what's the matter? Oh, it's okay, puppy. And glad that I got that trim in, but not the greatest looking candle. A great example of kind of going on the fly, adjusting. You know, we only trimmed 5%, but still, uh, it's tough to say if we're going to be able to get that opportunity back up here at 820 or not. But I do think is a reasonable setup. Yell, is this going to be able to hold this 75 level? NKLA giving up the ghost a little bit as well on a full red engulfing candle. I think we don't have a print up here. So if this pushes back up to the bodies as 219, I think that's where I would like to print it. We're gonna go ahead and take a trim here. So ringing the register a little bit on NKLA. We know it's right in at a level, but just in case this wants to break down, I gotta get that print off. And here we finally did fill that 805. Could be a partial reason why we didn't have a breakout right there is because this pullback candle just never got there. So now we're just looking for an 8 hold. I do not like this candle though. But it is light volume. And we still have a legitimate case for a channel. Could definitely be worse. It could have just stopped us out originally from the trade. So, I mean, the fact that we're here is a testament of what this trade can still do. Looking at the NASDAQ, a little bit red. Dow is even. Here we are right at 8 on EBS. Yell giving up the level, and we are officially stopped out of Yell. and that's why. You guys watched it live there. How I adjusted my stops all the ways through, and now we're out of it at a 268. My bad. So 268 does stop us out, and yellow was a great trade. It was a great trade. We didn't have it down from here, and you're freaking kidding me. The wick that I just seen go up like that. Now we're put in a position where, we could try and flirt back with it, but I'm not going to. There's no way. Yeah, there we go. Don't do that to me. But it does seem like there is going to be a bigger battle that's going to take place right here, and it's going to try and hold this level. Looking at just a 1 minute, look at that huge amount of buying pressure came in off of that, and the same buyer's coming back in. If we want this trade, we got to take it. I'd say underneath of that same 70 level is where you'd want that risk reward, but a huge amount of buying on this wick right here. Good lord. Low right at 250. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say about this. This is such a unique setup. Saying that the company announced that they're cutting their operations. I mean, this has got to be some sort of buyout deal where somebody had a big order in underneath where a reasonable stop would be at. Let's look at the hour chart on this. You can see the large increase taking out the highs, and when it takes out that high convincingly, the volume increase over top of here. So I don't see why it couldn't have to pull back down even lower. Like I said, I'm stopped out of it. I'm not going to buy back in 20 cents higher and give back any more losses, but I would not be surprised to see this take out the highs and absolutely rip. And that was the one thing I said about it. I got a feeling when I switched my stop that it was going to be an area that I regret selling. Do I regret selling everything? I could have easily just stopped trimmed, and then, if it came all the ways back in, we can reload the position, but man, that wick right there. Tough name to trade. Where we were in the driver's seat because we had a dandy of an entry. Nicholas still trying to hold the level. Let's see where that stop out came in at. We got the clean 265. EBS still trying to hold this level. A little bit of wick of buying here down those 803s. Ziwa trying to get back up. Respecting that sort of trend line right there. Is it legit? I don't know. I'd be shocked if this yell didn't break down still. NVAX crossing over, putting us in a situation on NVAX where do we need to do something with it? Let's stop some shares out at this 68. 68. We're going to stick with the 68. 868, we're going to stop out of a piece. Keep that a grain trade, and if it pulls back into my original entry that retests this flat top, I'm going to be a buyer. So if it stops us out there, we're reloading in, 30 pennies, 35 pennies at a lower price if it gets there. APLS, when does this bleeding stop on this name? And I think I'm looking at this area right there around 20 flat. Is it going to be able to get there? I don't know. Lucid, pull him right back into that 20 range. We're sticking with that one. Back, nice, you're still on. My bad, Drift. I don't know when you got back. We got stopped out of the yell. I mean, we thought we had an executed stop, and we had it for a trim originally at 73. If I don't know if you were there, and it held like a glove. And then we were thinking really bullish right here. And then once we seen it start giving this candle, we said, okay, let's just stop everything out right at 68. So we're out of the position now, almost a whole dollar in the money from the entry. Beautiful trade. But then this wick actually pushed up and was green back over 3. Uh, so I'm debating trying to get back in and give some of the wins back, where a stop underneath 70 seems reasonable. And the reason being is this volume on this candle was a big buy. So there's something that's strange with this. Something's going on. But no, I'm not going to give back any wins. I'm just going to let it ride, and if it comes back in near my entry, I'll try it down near 2 to 175. But if it ripped over 3, I'm going to be a little upset that I didn't just trim and hold a piece for the dream like I preach. Is what it is. That's fine. EBS, we have one print on the name. It came in at 819.17. It was sitting here as a green candle at 820, but this volume, they're just normally when you see it right here breaking out, getting ready to break out, you see that volume start picking up a little bit quicker. It didn't, so we took a trim and we were still on the ask at 825. We just didn't get that fill. But now back in, we truly filled this intraday gap up. You see, when we were in this candle, we said we just want to see it wick back down right in that 806 real quick so that it can break out. Well, it got close and then it tried to break out. Now we actually filled it. So let's see if we can hold these 8s. Where if this channel is legit, marking the bottoms, marking a parallel channel to the upside. This is our catalyst to get this gap fill at 844. So when candle number 4 here, we'd like to see some of that volume start to pick up in this candle. That's what we're looking for. Yeah, it's all good. It was a winning trade. I need to just flush it and say this was a great trade. There's nothing I would go back and change it. What happens has happened already, and you know if it wants to break out, good. We already got our move that we were looking for. So looking over at NKLA, we did take another piece out of this at 318 on this candle because just the red candle, we were going to try and just go on the ask at 320s, but we're not sure if we're going to get that. So if this wants to break down, we at least have a 318 fill along with the 309 and the 305, which the 309 looking back, you know, maybe not the most. The 309 happened at the open. So we gap up and it pulled back in quick and we said we got to at least get a piece off. So we respected 309. We got stopped out of some shares at 305 right here, the bottom of this wick. And we got a fill here on the breakdown of 318. So if it wants to churn back up, 325 I think is a legitimate breakout area. But other than that, I think we just got the, one sec. Other than that, we're just with the EBS is the new position, and Zila is another one that we also have a stop at 620. Where is Zila? Let's just type it in. We got a stop in at 620. 620 is the wick below this. We're giving it 3 pennies. That still keeps us over $1 in the money from some 490 entries that we had over here. Just playing this flat top right there, 490, pulled back in, playing the 5 level, over $1.50 in the money still. So uh, if it wants to break down this trend line that we have, we're giving it the wick low right here, which is maybe at support, so it can still hold, but it's only a trim. We're only looking the trim part of it. That's everything that we have for today. I'm not really looking. I go on vacation. My flight leaves today at 6 o'clock. So we're really not trying to get in. We gotta start getting prepared here soon to leave. So the live stream, we're not going to be live streaming again until next Tuesday or Wednesday. I believe probably Wednesday. So I appreciate you tuning in last day before I go on a nice vacation to Florida. We got a laptop that we're going to be trading on still in the mornings. But then after that, just see how it goes from there. Oh, I think I'm going to enjoy it. This is a little bit longer than the vacation we had in the Ozarks last weekend. An extremely fun weekend. It was a bachelor party, so you can imagine everyone was pretty uh, pretty intoxicated. The safe way to say that. Yeah, it was a great time. Uh, Vacation needed. It was a vacation that I needed on top of everything there. And I think this Florida vacation may be a little bit longer than my taste. But after the Florida trip, it'll be back to the grind, high conviction trades, looking at only taking winning trades, finding setups like this EBS trade today, identified it off the open, bought the pullback. Now we got a nice bull flag going right here. Let's see if we can get some movement to the upside. Cat, an 8% day from Caterpillar. They reported earnings, a nice beat on EPS, 550 on a $280 stock. Nice beat on revenue. Let's look at some year-over-year numbers. Taking out the highs. Looking bullish as ever. Let's look at a year ago. You go from 318 EPS to 550 on 14 billion. Now you're at 17 billion. Those are pretty good year-over-year numbers. Uh, how pissed do you think I am that it didn't pull back down to this gap? Man, 205. We got $9 off. See, this is where you see it start building that support level. This is your nut up or shut up. You see that on this gap up in green candle, that's the day we go positive right there. The next couple days, it's like, dude, you got to build this position out, or you risk it doing this. Well, this is a prime example of it right there, Drift. Prime example is why I call it the nut up or shut up candle. Yeah, you might buy it a little bit higher, but you also risk it ripping all the ways up to the high. So down here at 220, now we're up at 290. It's like, was it worth it? That's why we call that the nut up or shut up candle. Mikola. 15 minute. Kind of red engulfing through the level. Is there going to be some sort of channel that's trying to be made here? So a 310 hold is still in the works, but just gonna be patient on that. Yell, I don't know if I wouldn't want to trade this, especially with that sort of top. If it got over top of 310, I bet it rips, but it'd have to get there first. Tune approaching that next level, very light volume, not interested yet. MSGM now the new top gainer of the day. Uh, Maybe something there if I was really trying to force something, but I don't think I'm really trying to force anything back half of this day. I think we're going to stick with this EBS. We've only trimmed 5%, so still got 95% of the position. That's what's different between me and a lot of other people, Drift.
You know, if somebody was able to identify an entry like I just got on this, they would have trimmed it. An old me would have too. They would have trimmed it all the ways up, and they'd probably only have maybe what 20, 30, 50% at the most. Maybe I'll give them 50%. I'm not giving them any more than 50. They have 50% of the position left when the bigger picture is telling you, hey, this can easily print up to 844 right here, and you have no size left to trim that level. Where yes, this is a great move to the upside, 8%, but that 44 is 12 and a half. So we did respect it with 5%, and you know, for all I know, this breaks down and comes right back into the entry that we have. And you know, I'm sitting here telling myself, man, I wish I trimmed more to the upside. But from everything that we're looking at right here, where this is what we wanted to see break. Here's your flat bottom break, boom. Even on the first day after it breaks down and rejects and closes below that, reject, 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 reject. Now we're finally able to break through and breaking over top of this wick high. You know, if we pull this candle across, that is the body of this candle right here. Maybe you can say mark the body of this candle, which is what we rejected right there. If we close over 8, for all I know, here's your strength. This is what we really want. We want that early entry before that positive break. We get that positive break. You know, 844 is only the start. For all I know, we run up the 925 gap right there. You know, that's just what we're looking at. But yeah, looking at Yell, it's tough not being back in this trade. It was a fun trade. Trimmed it all the ways to the upside. Best print is a 322. Getting stopped out at these 68s, you know, maybe it breaks out higher, but I felt we played this trade very well today. And pretty happy with an 80% top print from those 75s. Even more than 80%. So that's what we're looking at there. So we're going to dial in on EBS, and if it gets back up to these 20s, maybe another 5% trim is worth it, and we're on the ask at 825s, but we want to see those 844s print. Looking at NKLA, you know, I'm glad that it's holding this level. Wicking down into the top of these wicks right here is what we want to see, and why do we wick into this originally is because the bodies of these candles. Uh, but we got the trims that we want. Even if this breaks down, we're holding this position all the way back into 270. We don't care. We'll hold it all the way back to 2 if we have to. You know why we're able to do that? Is because when you get the entry, boom, you trim the levels to the upside, you know, there's no need to sell this. I was in a different scenario where, you know, if I had an entry off of this consolidation or this breakout down at 86 cents, there's no way we would have stopped out up here. We would have held it all the ways back in to 175, or we would have looked to reload. This is the area we're looking to reload. You got the wick top right there. You got the breakout candle right there. So if this pulled back in, maybe there is an option for us to play this again. Uh, but if it breaks out and we miss out on it, that's where it's better having the golden entry. Where here's your golden entry right here. Uh, we didn't have it identified. We actually added it to the watch list yesterday, and we were watching it here at this 125. Just weren't able to find the courage to pull the trigger on 125. But looking at NVAX, let's go see if we got stopped out of some shares on NVAX. We're in at 68, so 68, we're in at 40s. We got our stop at 68 for a nice sizable trim, just keeping it in the money, and we'll hold the last piece all the ways back into this flat top where we're looking at this flat top for reload areas. So maybe even starting at 850 could be reasonable. There's 850, and maybe one off this wick high. So call it at 840, which is my entry. So 850, 840. If it pulls back into that 835, maybe it comes back down in the 25s. We're looking to play this for continuation. But to stop holding for now, it's a good first start. Soundhound 7 mil in volume, given a nice stair step look. Let's see if we can find anything here on this. Let's look at this. Let's strength just isn't quite there yet. It's gonna have a lot of levels it's gonna have to work through still, and let's start with 250, which is day's high from yesterday. Yell, 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 man. Why can I just not look away from this chart? I'm gonna end up giving back gains is what's gonna happen here. It's holding this level pretty good though. Not even gonna lie. Like we were saying, well, what was the other day? We had AI. We were trading over in this day saying that 350 was the breakout we were looking for. We get stopped out. Oh man, this was one of those scenarios we had everything marked out. We just needed that conviction breakout, and that conviction breakout was right over here. It gaps up, fills the gap, and reclaims that 40. This is where we needed that entry. So if I would have just been patient, instead of playing that 50 level, we were playing the 40 flat level. It could have been a different story. We'd be almost $4 in the money on that position. So that kind of sucks. But that's looking back and kind of looking at where you went wrong. Because from my chart perspective here, we felt we had everything marked properly. Where if we were good enough, we could have even played the bottom end of this support level here. But we felt we had everything set properly and just didn't execute. So that's one that we can look back on and maybe be better the next time we have an opportunity like this. But I'd be surprised if this, now that it's at days over top of Thursday's high, I would say that this looks pretty good for a continuation. Possibly, let's start with 48. But I think it could possibly rip up to 60. I think that's a reasonable area for it for continuation at least. So it sucks not having the entry there. This was a trade that we did very well off this 34 break. Ran it all the ways up. You know, was it 34? Yeah, it was 34 right over here. It wasn't over there though. It was right here. Boom. Playing around with that 34 break. Ran it up to the upside. Could have reloaded it in this area. Ran it up to this flat top. We could already still have an entry. So a couple different ways of looking at that. EBS, are we going to get a breakdown here or not? Nickel is still holding the level. It is 12 o'clock though. I think I'm going to go get some lunch. I appreciate you for tuning in, Drift. Like I said, I won't be streaming for the next few days, but back on Wednesday of next week, we will be back to and prepared to go. I will attempt to, I'll just go pull up the Discord real quick. I believe you are in here, possibly. ADMP, it looks like is what these guys are trading here. ADMP. Yeah, really just not my cup of tea, if I'm being honest. Breakout level could have been at this 278, but just looking at that 15 minute, not really. I mean, I don't know, not my cup of tea. Back at EBS, I still think this has a chance to go. But my bad. If you're a part of the Discord, I'll be there. Yep, have a good one, Drift. Appreciate you tuning in as always.